Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Some kind-hearted hunters in Lithuania refused to shoot a wild bear.
That bear was spotted roaming around the Lithuanian capital of Vilnius, and hunters criticized the government for issuing a permit to kill a member of the protected species. The Lithuanian Association of Hunters and Fishermen says in a statement it's shocked by the decision of the Environment Ministry to shoot the bear. The bear now seems to be out of danger as it was spotted on Wednesday walking through forested areas well outside the city. A government official has defended the authorities' stance and says the kill permit was issued purely as a precaution in case the bear posed a threat. Keith Peters, Washington.
Researchers at cybersecurity outlet Cyber News say billions of login credentials have been leaked and compiled into data sets online, giving criminals what the outlet describes as unprecedented access to accounts consumers use every day. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. South Africa opening a new inquiry into the killings of 4 anti-apartheid activists 40 years ago.
A new judge-led inquiry into the killings of the anti-apartheid activists who became known as the Craddock Four and who became a rallying cry for those denied justice is opening this month. Part of a renewed push in South Africa for the truth by relatives of some of the thousands of people killed by police and others during the years of white minority rule and enforced racial segregation.
As correspondent Charles de Ledesma reporting, British lawmakers have backed a bill that would allow terminally ill adults in England and Wales to choose to end their lives in an historic vote in Parliament that takes its step near now to becoming law throughout the United Kingdom. Members of Parliament voting 314 to 291 on Friday to back the bill following an impassioned debate. The measure now goes on to the unelected House of Lords. More of these stories at townhall.com.
Do you own an annuity, either fixed rate, indexed, or variable? Are you paying high fees and getting low returns? If so, Annuity General would like you to have this free book to learn the pitfalls and mistakes of buying an annuity. The Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers contains the little-known truths about annuities, like how to help reduce your fees and increase retirement income. And it's free. That's right, free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report just for calling. We researched over 1,000 annuities and summarized rates and benefits from financially strong insurers. You get Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and the Annuity Rate Report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. That's 800-760-1845.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
It's time for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about Chicago sports. With your host, Marcus Mack.
Jed Hoyer, who I like to call Big Ball and Jed. He is going out on his shield, baby. And welcome to the show, as we have a very special show today, as we are joined by my brother out on the West Coast, the BSO Black Sports Online Master and the host of Headline Kings, the accredited bad man himself, Mr. Robert Little. What's going on, Robert? Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate you guys, as always, having me on. And I see we got the Zoom going and everything.
Moving on up, baby.
See that handsome face of yours now?
Yeah, moving on up, my brother. We got a lot to get into, Rob. As crazy as it is, even though it is Game 7 of the NBA Finals, there's a lot of chatter around the NBA, and we're going to get in all that. We're going to talk about Kevin Durant possible destinations. We're going to talk about LeBron James and his statements, which has created a buzz throughout the sports world when he accused ring culture as being ring chasing culture becoming very toxic for NBA players' greatness. I thought that was a very interesting take. But first, we'll start out with what's going on for tomorrow. Big Game 7, Pacers and the Thunder. This is what I wanted as a fan. I know a lot of people, including myself, said that Indiana was probably going to fall in 5 or 6 games, and that hasn't happened. But as a fan, I wanted a Game 7, and now we have it. What has been your thoughts so far of this NBA Finals, and how do you see Game 7 playing out tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I was a little surprised at how Oklahoma City came out in Game 6. Normally when you got a team on the ropes, the star players hurt, the great teams, put the hammer down at that time. The Steph Currys, the LeBrons, the Jordans, the Klay Thompsons, the Stephs. They put that Game 6 is normally when they put that hammer down. You never want to give an underdog another shot at it. Because anything can happen in a Game 7. And here's the thing about the Oklahoma City. I feel like they have one true weakness. Every once in a while, their three-point shot just disappears. And it doesn't matter if it's at home or on the way. There aren't consistent three-point shooters. And when it disappears, I mean, it goes.
Yes.
And in the modern NBA, if your three-point shot just goes away, and the other team is just a little bit better, which we've seen from Indiana, who's a very good shooting team, I feel like they have a shot. I think if the Pacers are able to keep it close early, because the Oklahoma City will come out like their head's going to be on fire. If they can keep it close and get into a fourth quarter game, I think they got a good shot at it.
That's when we've seen Halliburton really be his best, is in that fourth quarter. That's when you have seen most of his heroics throughout these playoffs. And you are 100% correct. If Oklahoma City can't find a way to stomp them out going into that fourth quarter, they give them hope. If it's 5-10 points heading with 5 minutes left to play, Indiana is going to give it their all, and they're going to make a massive push, and the Thunder will have to fight for it if they want to win it, because make no mistake about it, the thing that people don't understand, Indiana was knocking on the door last year at the fight. See, we just don't want to pay attention to it because it's the Pacers. They're a small market team. They don't have the big name superstar. People don't want them there. It's not expected. So therefore, when it happens, it's almost kind of like, oh, what are you doing here? But the fact was that Indiana was in the conference finals last year. Generally, teams that get to the conference finals, now maturation takes them to the next step. We saw that with the Chicago Bulls, where they couldn't get past the hump with the Detroit Pistons. Then all of a sudden, finally, they get into the finals. They end up playing a Lakers team that they beat. They beat them down, but the Lakers had magic on that team. It wasn't like the Lakers didn't have a shot. It's just that Michael just rose to the moment better than we've seen ever, and that's why he is the GOAT. But you look at a situation like this, and it's like, is Indiana not good enough? No, Indiana's very much good enough. I think Indiana is more than capable of winning a title. It's just that nobody was paying attention to them.
What happened is they started off horrible. I mean, I believe they were like 10 and 15. So once you saw it, you kind of off the radar. But what people don't, like you said, what people don't really understand is, from, I believe, like January 1st on, they had the second best record in the NBA than Oklahoma City. And we talk about this all the time with football. Doesn't matter what you did in week 1, week 5. Nope. When you get to week 16, 17, 18, are you ascending? Are you moving in the right direction? Because a 9-8 team can beat a 13-3 team if they're moving in the right direction. So the Pacers were moving in the right direction to the point where they were almost equal to Oklahoma City, for a good portion of the year. And now that's playing out, and people are like, wow, I can't believe it. Oklahoma City has all these wins. The only difference is it took Indiana a little time to get out of gear to get going.
They were stuck in that mud.
Right there. Yeah, and here's the thing about small market teams. Small market teams become big time when they win titles.
Yep. And that's facts. That's facts. San Antonio, when they had their run, didn't seem so small market when they were winning those titles with Duncan. And that's just, and the thing about it is that no matter what, if you win, people come around. I know that people are saying this is the most unlikely championship winner. And I just don't feel that way with it. Like I say, I don't feel that way because Indiana was already in the conference finals last year. They had a good nucleus that they put together. And when you got a good nucleus and you got a guy that can close, see, it doesn't matter about Halliburton being a superstar. He's not. He's a star player. He's not a superstar. What matters is when you get it done in the biggest moments of a game, and that's the fourth quarter. That's what killed Zach LaVine. That's why Zach LaVine was ran out of Chicago. That's why Zach LaVine should have never got a contract. You know what I called Zach LaVine? Empty calories. Because quarters 1, 2, and 3, he's dropping 30. Fourth quarter, nowhere to be found. That's how do you help me, guy? How do you started me out? You got me there, and then when I needed you to finish and close the deal, you disappeared. And that's not what is gonna win championships. What wins championships is closing the door, and Halliburton can do that. You get him there, you get him to that point, and then he gives the other players around him, because they know he can close. That gives them more confidence. That gives a Pascal Siakam more confidence. And remember when Pascal played with Kawhi Leonard? Look what happened. They won a championship because Kawhi Leonard is a very good player. He is a superstar, but he's not the superstar of the NBA. He's not the best player in the NBA by far, but he was a closer. He's a closer. And when other people around you can sense that, hey, all I got to do is help this guy get there, and he can drive it home, and makes them play a little bit harder. It makes them stay a little bit more focused. And that's what we see going on with Indiana. And let's not mention the X factor, Robert. Rick Carlisle, championship coach, going against a young neophyte coach. And remember, the Thunder are the youngest team, I think, is it ever in the finals, or the second youngest team to play in the finals?
Second youngest to the Portland Trail Blazers back in the day. Yep.
So look at that.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting. Like, it's so weird to me that you see these talking heads argue about superstar and not superstar. Who cares?
Who cares?
I'm trying to win a championship. Let me tell you how I become a superstar with some rings. You know what I'm saying? You give me enough rings, and I'm the guy. They're gonna put who gonna be on the commercial if the Pacers win a championship.
Boom.
It's gonna be Tyrese Halliburton and Caitlin Clark are gonna be doing a commercial. To me, a superstar is not just what you do on the court; it's what you are off the court. And the way that you become a superstar off the court, you get them rings. Like I said, Kawhi Leonard, like you said, he got them rings, and he don't even talk. And he's a superstar. So you win the ring, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, no, that's just facts. If you the shine comes with the wins, and we saw, Giannis able to put it together with Milwaukee, and hey, you know what? Now Giannis, right? It went from Giannis was pinned in when he got that ring. Now superstar. Nobody was calling Giannis a superstar before that ring. We said he was a really good player. He was trending, and then once he got that ring, superstar status, right?
Yeah. Remember, everybody was arguing about Jokic's a good player. Is he the best player? Won that ring. Nobody argues about it anymore.
Nope. Because he won that ring. He won that ring. It was like, oh,
Jalen Hurts. Oh no, Jalen. No. What you gotta say about Jalen Hurts? Nothing. He beat Patrick Mahomes. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes twice in the Super Bowl. Can't tell me nothing. Two times. Can't tell me nothing now. I don't care how you rank me. Rank these rings.
And that's the thing. Like I tell people all the time, when it comes to athletes, what makes athletes special, what separates them is very little things. What separates the greats, because they're all great. But there is small separations. And one of my factors of separation is if a player can be great and live in the moment, stay focused, but have that unwillingness to back down, that what separates to me. Like, I never saw Jordan back down. Even in Jordan's losses, he didn't back down. When he lost to Detroit, you saw Mike giving his everything. It wasn't a game where Mike had 5 points. And Detroit beat him up. Yeah, Detroit made it hard, but he still got his, and he still made those games were competitive, and they were a dogfight. You know, it wasn't like Detroit was just scrubbing the Bulls and they didn't stand a chance. You know, it wasn't going down like that, okay? You saw a tremendous effort, and then when he got there, he was able to close, and that right there, a lot of players are great, but a lot of players cannot close that are great. There are players that are not great, like a Jalen Hurts, that can close. And when you can combine the two, that's when you get a Michael Jordan. That's when you get a Steph Curry. That's the reason why LeBron will never be ranked above Michael. That has nothing to do with rings. It's the fact that LeBron could not close in the biggest moments. Even when they defeated the Warriors, it was Kyrie Irving that hit the bucket. Kyrie Irving is a closer. Is Kyrie Irving the best player in basketball? No, but Kyrie Irving is a closer, and that is the difference. If you are a superstar athlete and you're a closer, Larry Bird, superstar player, that makes him on a different level than other players. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, great, but that puts you on a different level. That's why Kareem is above Wilt, because Wilt couldn't close multiple times. He lost to Boston, and some of those, go back and read the stats. It was Wilt. It was on Wilt. That's where the separation is at.
Like we talk about James Harden, talented
cannot
guy.
Close.
Cannot close. It's definitely, I think in sports, it's something like, I feel like say Lamar Jackson. Love Lamar Jackson. Want with all my heart for Lamar Jackson to win a title for various reasons. But you got, look, and sometimes sometimes it's weird, a guy drops a pass, you throw an interception, your defense doesn't play well on it. But in the end, you're the man. And when you're the man, everything falls on you.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad that we segue perfectly into this, because I referenced it when we started the show. LeBron James lit the sports world on fire back here a couple days ago when he, on his podcast with Steve Nash, said that ring chasing culture was starting to ruin the NBA. And his words, it was weird that a team sport could be placed on an individual in determining their greatness. And I know where he's going with this, because he's always constantly trying, him and his team are constantly trying to push this narrative that he is the greatest basketball player of all time, even though he doesn't have the rings to match up to Mike, even though he doesn't have even half the accolades to match up to Mike. He still wants to try to push this narrative that I'm the greatest that ever played it, for some weird ego thing. Because here's the thing about it. For the people that say that LeBron James is disrespected, I look at you very strange. And whoever you are out there, I look at you very strange, because how is it disrespect saying he's the second greatest player of all time? How is that? I mean, that's putting you above Magic, Bird, Kareem, cats that could straight ball Kobe. I mean, like guys that straight went after you. Okay, and we're elevating you above all of them. You just can't take one guy down. And you had your chance. It wasn't like LeBron didn't have a chance to eclipse Mike as the greatest basketball player ever. He had his chance. We gave him a pass with the loss to San Antonio. Oh, you're young. But what happened with the loss to the Mavericks? When you joined the Heat and you had a super team? What was that about? What happened when you quit on your team when you lost in the playoffs to Boston and you took your jersey off and you wouldn't shoot in the fourth quarter? People act like these things are forgotten all of a sudden when trying to attach greatness. But remember what I told you. The only thing that separates these great players is a few little intangibles. LeBron has never been known to be a closer, not until much later in his career. Mike was always known as a closer. From the moment he came into the league, it was like, that guy with the ball in his hand in the fourth quarter, you're frightened. Literally frightened of him. No one was frightened of LeBron with the ball in his hand in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think LeBron sometimes can be a hypocritical in some of his comments. And it's one of those messenger type of situations. in the sense where, yeah, you don't want, sometimes situations are what they are, and that's why you don't win, a championship, like say Reggie Miller or something like that, or the Patrick Ewing going up against the, like there's certain situations, or even Charles Barkley, where you say, maybe if they were on another team, maybe if they did this or did that, so you don't want to take down, their status because of that. But that's not for LeBron to say, because LeBron is actively chased the ring.
He's still doing it.
For the culture. So like he when he made that decision to leave Cleveland, he could have stayed there the whole time like Reggie Miller. He could have stayed there the whole time like Mike. He could have stayed the whole time like Steph. He could have stayed the whole time like Patrick for the majority, of those years. He could have gave it let's say a longer shot. You know what I mean? Like he could have stayed like Giannis or Jokic and just waited until, maybe they got enough to make it work. But he decided to leave because he was chasing the ring. And when he left Miami, he left because he knew they were getting old, that their window had passed. He made sure that he had Kyrie with him. Made sure he had Kevin Love with him. He made sure he had another team. And when he left them, he made sure that he went to the Lakers, but you just can't go to the Lakers. You got to make sure, you can't just go to, if he would have just went to the Lakers by himself, it took him to glory, I think he would be seen a little different. But no, I got to have Anthony Davis. I need help. I got to win a ring in a bubble. And then Anthony Davis is like, okay, he gets hurt too much. Let me get Luka, the top 5 All-NBA guy. So when you look at his career has been about ring culture and trying to get as many rings with as many people as possible. So when he tries to tell other people, he tries to lecture other people on it, it's very difficult. It's like, RG3, talking about, black women. It's like,
that guy.
It's like, the message may be fine, but the message is not great.
No, it comes off weird. And I'll tell you, I'm going to say that guy for a little bit because I love how you cover things, and he's a very interesting. And I don't like, even because this is what he wants. He wants to stay relevant with his weird, stupid takes, so we won't go there just yet on him. But I'm glad you brought him up, because that is the problem out here, is people like that go out and sensationalize something because they're chasing clout, and then they turn around and they make some comment that it's like, bro, you're not qualified to make that comment. But they're just trying to do it so that they could get people to put eyes on them. And that's what, like I said, that's what this goes to. Because see, look, what LeBron opened up was a can that you shouldn't open up, because you're just strictly trying to justify why you should be labeled as the GOAT. And you're saying, oh, this ring thing is weird, but yet you sit with rings. Like you say, you ran to Miami to get a ring because you wanted to make sure your career was validated by that. So now you turn around and you say, oh, this ring culture is weird. A player shouldn't be judged by his greatness by rings. And you know what? That's false, because you're trying to make it sound like the players were not acknowledged for being great. And they are. Charles Barkley will always be great. Charles Barkley did not win a ring. That is something that can be attached to him. That doesn't take away his greatness. What it means is that, how could I turn around and say that Charles Barkley was better than Larry Bird when Charles Barkley got to the biggest moments and couldn't finish? And yeah, he may only got to the mountaintop one time, and he ran against the greatest player ever. But guess what? He still had his shot. And yes, it's a team game, and that's where the nuances come into play. But guess what? The team wasn't injured. It was a healthy team. What it would have took for Phoenix to beat the Bulls that year, it would have took Barkley elevating his game to another level of greatness.
And you know something? That's something that people, I think, in retrospect, don't really understand.
They don't understand it.
Is a lot of those teams that Michael Jordan went up against, they were equally or better than the Bulls in the regular season. One of the Jazz's team, the Barkley team, even when they went up, they had that record-breaking year. They went up against Seattle. Seattle had something like 62 wins. You know, it was like, no, these were not light. You know, the
these
Blazers.
these are not like
the Lakers.
Think about
Magic Johnson.
Think about the Strip. The Strip was on Karl Malone, the best player on Utah, and Mike's gang. He elevated to another level in the biggest moments. No one else. I've seen basketball a ton. I don't think no other player would have known to make that move to come back to the baseline and strip Karl Malone when Malone wasn't looking. Malone looked over his left shoulder, and Mike came back around and tapped the ball out. Perfect timing.
These games were close. You know like, they always seem like Mike just blew out everybody.
No.
You needed Steve Kerr, needed John Paxson. Obviously, these games were on the road in hostile environments. You know,
so the team does play a part. It does. Yeah. But what did you do as an individual when that moment came? And I'm sorry, as an individual, LeBron, in many of your biggest moments, you were not the guy. Whether it was Dwayne Wade, whether it was Ray Allen. Oh, let's not forget that. When Ray Allen bailed their butts out, I mean, literally bailed their butts out with one of the clutches, 3-point shots next to John Paxson's in a final. Okay, like seriously. But now all of a sudden that gets thrown to the wayside, and he wants to say, oh, ring chasing coaches was wrong. No, it's you, LeBron. It's you that is causing the problem in basketball because you can't let it go that you're not the greatest player of all time. And so now you put a microscope on guys like Tracy McGrady and stuff. That's not fair to them. Nobody's questioning their greatness. Nobody. Right. Rob, I want you to stick around if you don't mind. After the break, we're going to talk some more because we got to get it to Kevin Durant's destination. And I want to hear your thoughts on the WNBA this year, especially with the Chicago Sky really struggling. I know you got some thoughts on that as well. So we got a lot to talk about here and more on The Truth About Chicago Sports on WRMN 1410. Don't forget the call-in line is 847-931-1410. We're joined here by Robert Little today on The Truth About Chicago Sports. We got a ton to talk about and a ton to cover. We'll be also joined by Sophia Blackburn later in the day as we'll be breaking down the NHL finals, which ended as the Edmonton Oilers were defeated by the Florida Panthers. We got a whole ton of Chicago sports and then some here on The Truth About Chicago Sports.
I know we're at an at-will state, but for making a comment, like, hey, your hair looks good. And then I got a call from HR saying, hey, you know what? You're under investigation. Do I have any recourse?
Were you fired?
No, not yet.
The problem, Eddie, is they can fire you for any reason they want. They literally can wake up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm a little bored this morning. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to fire Eddie for no reason. Yup, he can do that. Yeah, that's California. Yep, welcome.
Handle on the Law. If you're injured and need a lawyer, go to handleonthelaw.com.
The weather is getting better, and we know it's the time when ladders and DIYers come out. Before you start any new outdoor projects, ComEd wants you to know that electricity can jump from a power line to you and the tools you're using. So maintain a safe distance from any power lines. You can also call ComEd at 1-800-EDISON-1 to have those power lines de-energized the next time you do any type of work around them. Stay smart, stay safe, stay back. ComEd, powering lives.
Political party poopers got you down? Shake it off and join me, Dennis Sonar Green, every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. on WRMN for A Political Talk Show, where we cut through the doom and gloom with a focus on America first, constitutional values, and a populist perspective that puts you, the citizen, at the center of the conversation. At WRMN, the talk of the town, we're not afraid to challenge the status quo and bring you the straight talk you need. Whether you're frustrated with the political establishment or looking for a clear, some nonsense analysis, this show has you covered. Tune in, let's take on the issues together with a fresh, unfiltered approach. Catch us every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. on WRMN, A Political Talk Show. WRMN, the talk of the town.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. If you're struggling with mental health, you should know that there are resources out there that can help. And it's okay to talk about it if you need to. One place to get started with information is loveyourmindtoday.org. Loveyourmindtoday.org offers a range of guides, instructions, and insights for dealing with difficult situations or getting through a tough time. If you're struggling with mental health, get the help you need, because most people out here really care. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Youth football season is almost here. Elgin Steelers Youth Football and Cheer is now part of the prestigious Pop Warner League in Chicagoland. We're serving youth athletes of all ages, building character and fostering teamwork. Registration is now open, so don't miss out on the chance to be a part of a winning tradition. Multi-athletic registration discounts are available, and we're looking for dedicated volunteers to join our coaching staff. Shape the future of our youth. Plus, on April 14th, the Elgin Steelers Youth Football and Cheer start spring conditioning. Get all the details and register at elginsteelers.com. That's elginsteelers.com. Go Steelers!
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding a unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to the show. This is The Truth About Chicago Sports here on WRMN 1410 AM. I am joined by Mr. Robert Little as we're sitting here breaking down the NBA. There's been a lot of NBA news, even though the NBA is in the finals. We still find that there's just a ton that's been happening. We saw the Memphis Grizzlies have made some moves, which make you kind of question what's going to happen with John Morant. But right now, I think the needle has not been moved and is waiting to be moved after things are decided with Kevin Durant. Now, Kevin Durant has come out and said he would like to play in Miami, San Antonio, or Houston. I find that funny. All states with, no tax. But whatever, Robert. Like we would pay something. Like we would pay attention to something like that.
Kevin Durant's interesting, man. The
clapback king, the social media clapback king.
Yeah, I don't know if he ever. I've talked to him a couple of times when I've done some finals, and I tweet him from time to time, and every once in a while he replies back, very he had never actually clapped back on me like in a bad way. But the one thing that he hasn't ever replied to me on is he should have just stayed with the Warriors. Yep. I understand there was some personal dynamics there and some personal feelings, but his game just fit what they did, so well. That as soon as he, recovered from that Achilles, they would have probably won at least two more.
Guaranteed.
Easy with it. But he wanted to do his thing in Brooklyn, and then he ends up in the Suns. And I tell him now that I know he wants to go to San Antonio. Why wouldn't you looking to go to Denver?
Mm.
Have them take Michael Porter and whatever else they want, and you sit up there and have Jokic. You don't have to do at this point of your career at 37 years old. You don't want to do all the work.
Yeah.
you want to be a closer.
Not only that, you need players on your level. You need players. San Antonio, too young. Those players aren't on his level. Right. Houston, too young. Right. They're not on his level. Denver,
I don't get it.
Denver, they're on his level. Championship aspirations already, championship winners, and you got guys that are ego friendly. You know what I mean? That they would fit in with, but That's interesting because that team hasn't been thrown out there. Now, I hear Minnesota is the most aggressive. Does Minnesota make sense?
No, it doesn't because they already have Anthony Edwards. Like, it doesn't mesh well. Kevin Durant's a unique, type of player. And he's not what you would consider a facilitator, so to speak. He's a baller. He's a scorer. He can rebound, he can assist and everything. But who do you, if you give up Rudy Gobert and say a couple of your young players, who's going to protect the rim?
Mm-hmm.
Give all the money to Nas Reed. Okay, well then what's your bench looks like now? You know what I mean? I feel like when you make these big trades, and the reason I don't think they've been working lately is you have to give up so much depth, so many draft picks that if Kevin Durant gets a little ankle tweak, there's nothing there behind it to help. The thing with the Warriors, he was a free agent, so they didn't lose anybody. They let one guy go and they had an entire team. But I can understand San Antonio and Houston because they have a lot of disposable parts. But does Kevin Durant when I guess this would be 2025, 2026, can he carry a young team to a title? I just don't see it.
It's hard pressed. And this is why I love bringing you on the show, my brother, because you drop a perspective out there that no one else even takes the time to really even look at. And I just love that idea that Kevin Durant, like you said, the way his career has gone, to sit and say, hey, Kevin, here's the keys to this team. Go drive it. And we're going to give away all of our pieces for you. Because that is what happened in Phoenix in itself. They gave up the house for him. And then when Bradley Beal got injured, there was no one behind them to play. So Devin Booker was stuck on an island trying to shoulder the load, which he's a good player, man. Book's a real good player, okay? He's a star for sure, but he's not the type of player that's built to carry a load by himself. And that's so it's like, okay, another team's going to do the same thing.
The Suns got to the finals when they had a balanced lineup.
Yes.
Chris Paul, Vets, they had Booker. They had a lot of they were like the Thunder and they were like the Pacers. They can go 1 to 10. And I think that's what we're finding out now is that in these days, maybe back in the day you could win with 1 or 2 guys and everybody else is just. But even back then, your role players had to be legit. And what we're finding out is this everything is spread so thin now that the role players on the teams with the superstars, they're not legit. Yeah. So and when the playoffs come, they freeze up. There are no Paxes and Kerrs, and there are no those guys that you can count on,
glue guys,
and who don't need the spotlight. So what happens is you get a Phoenix, you can't tell me who their role player is because they never stepped up. But you can watch the finals and say, who's this Cason Wallace guy? He over shooting 3. What this guy got? What was it? Maturin,
right?
27 points.
Yeah, Nimbar.
In the finals game.
Nimbar, like who?
Nimbar, Nimhard, like these guys. You got the TJ McConnell,
right?
Caruso. These guys are winning games or keeping their teams in games until the superstar is ready to take over. And that's really how you should build your team. And that's why I think the Houstons and the Spurs, they're not quite willing to give Phoenix everything. And look, we'll give you a couple, but we're not going to gut the entire team.
We're gonna give up our young talent, our draft picks for a 37-year-old guy that, let's be honest, Kevin is... he's a weird dude, man, because he is a great player, but he is not a leader. It's been open. He does not care to lead. He comes into the locker room. He's a loner. He kind of does his thing, and he expects people to follow. And his talent does speak for itself. His talent is immense, and it is great. But it's when you've got a guy that's that talented, but yet he's just basically like, man, you do you, and I'm gonna do me over here. That's tough.
Oh, and he's gonna want an extension.
Of course he wants to get paid.
He's making a lot next year, and he's gonna be like, look, if you want to trade for me, I'm gonna need another 3 years to get me to 40, and I want 50 million on those 3 years. So now you're like, okay, what's our cap situation? Because now you can't sign anybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's the problem with the Nuggets in and of itself, is that they signed all these guys, but they don't have no depth around Jokic. So every playoffs, they just run out of gas like a NASCAR team.
Yes.
Because they don't have no depth.
Look at the Lakers. Same thing with the Lakers this year. No depth.
Same with the Lakers.
No depth. Yeah, you got Luke and LeBron, but who's coming behind them to give them a breather?
Yeah, you have no center. You have no consistent bench. Like the way, look, Adam Silver, I mean, I don't know if this was his plan, but with that first apron and that second apron and the way that they made sure, like, if you above this tax, we just not gonna let you just run fancy free like baseball. You know, you can just pay whatever you want to pay. If you hit these tax brackets, and we're not gonna let you cheat the system. And I think that's allowed teams that are good drafters, that have young players. Because seriously, like it comes up with Boston right now. The bill comes due. They had good young players and cheap contracts, and they had like 10 players like that. Then the bill starts coming due, and now you can only win one championship because you just can't hold on to them.
No, it is created. The parity is real in the NBA, and it is exact. Like you said, I don't know if it was his plan, but it worked out perfect because what it has created is the exact scenario you have in the NFL, and that people wonder why the NFL's popularity soared. NFL's popularity soared because they figured out, they had the dominant team, the Cowboys and the 49ers in the 80s and the 90s. But what they realized was that where popularity came from was actually everybody's team having a chance. Because that made everybody invested in their city, in the team in their city. And when everybody's invested in the team in your city, revenue comes in, more fandom, a bigger audiences start to be built because you believe your team can win. Make no mistake about it. As much as we might look and say, oh, the Carolina Panthers aren't going to be. Guess what? If the Carolina Panthers got hot, if some draft picks popped, if Bryce Young started balling out of his mind, you see a Washington Redskins situation where all of a sudden this team went from being the worst to somebody that's dominant. And that's what the NBA has done. And they're trying to make it to where, hey, just because I'm in Sacramento doesn't mean there goes another lose. They want you to believe that if you're in Sacramento, your team has a chance. And that's
why
key.
I don't get. Yeah, and that's why I don't worry too much about quote-unquote finals ratings, right? Because how much more popular are the Pacers now overall because of the entire run, playing against the Knicks and the buzzer beaters? How much more popular? How many more people know Shai Gilgeous-Alexander now, or Jalen Williams?
Yes.
Or how many more commercials Caruso gonna get in the offseason? It doesn't matter about. It's about now. Next year. Is that about this year? Next year. Oh, the Pacers are playing? Oh, man, hold on. I got to check that out. Man, they just either won the finals. Oh, wait a minute. SGS, the MVP. It's all about, like you said, now you got two teams that didn't have a lot of exposure. Same thing happened with Denver. Denver was getting like 2 nationally televised playoffs games. But now they get 30 a year. And I bet you their local market gets an extra bump. And then their arena gets an extra bump. The owners make a little extra money. Because like you said, everybody has a chance.
Everybody has a chance. We got a call on the line. I'm going to take the call if you don't mind, Robert. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. This is the truth about Chicago sports. What do you got for me? Caller? Are you there? Hello. Okay. I guess they decided not to talk to him. It happens. Sometimes when you wait on hold. Hello, caller. You still there? Let me see if I got him now. Caller? No. Like I say, it happens to the best of them sometimes when you're waiting on hold. Well, we're going to continue on with our talk. I want to talk some WNBA. Right now, I actually got a chance to go to the Chicago Sky game last game they played against the Mystics. Very hard-fought game that unfortunately they fell short of. It was the same thing that's kind of been for the whole season for this team. After halftime, they come out flat. every game, it seems. It's just like the third quarter is their Achilles heel. And once again, it was the same way. They went into halftime. They were up. They looked solid. Angel Reese had, I think, 13 points going into half. And then at the end of it all, she would finish with only 16 points as the offense got away from feeding the bigs, got it way out to the perimeter too much, a lot of turnovers. And we saw this team fall again. This team is now sitting 3-8, much different than last year. Last year, they had Kennedy Carter. They had Coach Spoon. This year, no Kennedy Carter, Coach Marsh now. Is that just been the biggest difference, or is it deeper than that for the Sky right now, Robert?
Well, yeah, they can't, they at least, especially early on, they couldn't score. And I think, one of the issues is, and we've talked about this before, is that I think actually last year and this year, they don't exactly know how to use Angel Reese and Cardoso.
Yep.
In the same way. I see flashes of it getting better, because what you see with all I see when I look at Angel Reese is Draymond Green. I see a defender, a rebounder, someone that can push, someone that can make assists. They can't shoot. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's ever going to change, but it doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, here's the thing: the Warriors would not. They don't run no plays for Draymond Green.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't put Draymond Green in the post up and say, "Hey, go to work." So I think the coach maybe felt like he had to do that. Maybe felt some pressure. I don't know. It seems lately they've been trying to focus more on running, getting out, maybe telling Angel, "Hey, Angel, when you get that offensive rebound, don't go up 3 times. You have no lift. You're going to get blocked. Pass it back out. Let's reset. Let's get a good shot. There's 4 girls on you, Angel. Somebody's going to be open. Just turn around, And when you get that rebound, now we want you to push it like Jokic. We want you to push it like LeBron and the bigs that can push, and then, have the defense collapse and everything. So I think they're moving in the right. They look really good. And outside the first half, I'm like,
they look good. That was
this looks good.
Yes.
And the game before, like this, look, and then I'm not exactly sure what happened, afterwards. But I feel like the components are there. I think the coach was a little overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Starting off with the fever and that whole situation with Caitlin Clark was not healthy.
No.
It takes away from basketball, and I think at times the coach was a little overwhelmed by.
Yes.
He's never been involved in anything like that, and I think he was a little shook. And I think it took him a few games away from Caitlin Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me implement my stuff. Let me see what I got here. And if they could just put it together for an entire game, you don't need a lot to get into the WNBA playoffs, but I think the fever started like 1-8,
mm-hmm.
and ended up being 500 and getting in, so they can turn it around. I do have faith in the coach. I think he's a good coach. I think he got caught up in a situation where that's toxic anytime that they're together. And I said this online. I made a video. I wish they never ran across each other.
Yeah.
Because I think it takes away from both of them.
Yeah.
Their game. Not individual, not people-wise, but their game.
Yes, I agree.
Like Paige Beckers can just play.
Yep. And she does.
And she's playing well.
And she just balls.
And it's quiet. Like you mentioned it, people say, "Oh, that's great." There's nothing underneath the comments. It's just a young girl that's just relaxed.
Perfect example. Paige Beckers doesn't score a bucket, and all of a sudden there's somebody said, "Well, Juju Watkins is coming out next year."
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like Paige doesn't have a good game, and it's like, well, what about Enrique Aguilera on the team? You know what I'm saying? She's just able to play, and just let her play, and that's all I've begged for from the sports world, and that's why when you mentioned our guy, who I don't even like to give his name credit, because I just think he's a complete joke, Mr. 3. That's why I'll just put it that way, Mr. 3. When you make these bum comments that tries to create this shock message, it's like you don't even know these people. You don't even know these women, and you're here speaking like you know something and trying to turn something into a narrative rather than let's just talk about ball. And we see it rear its ugly head again with I can't think of her name yesterday. Angel McCautry, is that her name? Angel. With her statements towards Haley Van Lith. Let me tell you something. I'm going to stand up for my Chicago Sky players anytime. Let me tell you something. If you didn't watch Haley Van Lith in college, then that's your fault. If you didn't watch what she did before she came to LSU, I forget the team she played before she came to LSU and joined with Angel Reese. Then when she actually Louisville. Louisville, and then she actually took her game back to play with Angel Reese and LSU. And then when she went to TCU, she showed once again that she could be a focal point of the offense. How could you get up and come out and say, oh, if she didn't have the social media following, she probably wouldn't be on that? That's the type of stuff right there that's just toxic to me for the league. Just period, just for the game. If you want to break her game down, and say Haley Van Lith's game, she can't, maybe she doesn't move well to her left. Her jump shot isn't. I think other players out there can finish around the bucket better than her. So, maybe they should reevaluate having it. You want to say something like that, but to try to say that totally takes away credit from all the hard work she's done. First off, secondly, it takes away from her career that I saw her put in the work in her basketball career. She deserved to be drafted wholeheartedly. And how dare you come out there and vilify her like that and say, oh, it's a social media thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure social media plays a lot with any athlete, with anybody. But at the same time, I'm not going to pass up drafting a better player because I think that this player will market better. Like wins market better. What don't people understand about that? If Caitlin wasn't winning, she wouldn't get. If Angel hadn't have won, she would not have been marketed. People forget that these girls were not marketed off of some just name. They won. Angel Reese won a championship. That's why she started getting marketed. Caitlin Clark's name didn't pop up until she started winning. If she'd have been a one and done in that tournament, you wouldn't have heard nothing about it. It was the fact that she showed she could rise to the moment and win. Now she's winning in the WNBA. If she was out losing, her teams were getting blasted, it'd be hard to sit here and be like, oh, she's so awesome. Wins is what gets notoriety. That's my opinion.
If that was true, then Angel Reese would have been drafted number 2.
Yeah.
If it was really true, Haley Van Lith would have been drafted number 2. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's I don't really understand it, Mac, and it's frustrating to me because they were handed what I consider the easiest layup in the history of sports. You know what I mean? Like the NBA, when they got Jordan, they didn't expect Jordan to be Jordan. No. You know what I mean? Like, he's drafted 3rd. They didn't expect Jordan to be Michael Jordan. That's just what happened. You knew what you had with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and these others. Like, it's just right there on a platter. And for whatever reason, they seem to like to shoot themselves in the foot almost on a daily basis, simply because I don't understand. I can't fathom it. Like I was watching the Stanley Cup, and Wayne Gretzky was on there, right? And the Edmonton Oilers were in, and they were talking about how when the league realized that Wayne was Wayne Gretzky, the great one, and the players realized how much money that Wayne Gretzky was like. There was a conversation that didn't have to be talked about. Like, listen, we're gonna play him hard. We
would not ever injure him. Ever.
We're not gonna hurt him.
No, that's the breadwinner.
And that was like, we're not gonna fight. Like, if we mad at Wayne, we gonna fight Mark Messier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Wayne did something, we gonna go fight this other guy. Because they understood what they had. The WNBA seems not to understand the blessing that they have. And I'm not saying they should coddle anybody, but the way that they treat Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and some of these, and Haley now, it's like, why? These are your money makers.
These are your stars. They're filling your buildings.
They're
bringing fans.
UConn and Taurasi. I'm like, You should be building these people up because they're already high. If you just push them, they can go through the roof. Why would you actively try to tear one of your players down? And like you said, Haley Van Leeth has been in 5 years, a champion. But this is how you. I don't understand.
I think I do understand it in a way, but I just refuse to give it light. And what it is that, you know, it's even in our industry, Rob.
Yeah.
Hey, you've been out here, you've been in the game, you've been grinding for years, right? I come along and I'm out here, I'm only been in the game for a couple years, and all of a sudden ESPN says, hey, Marcus, we need you here. We need you covering this. We need you covering that. Now, you got 2 ways to go about it. You got one, you could sit and be like, man, maybe that's let me promote my brother because, hey, who knows what that could do for me? Or you could look at it and say, I deserve that. Why didn't I get that? And it's not a jealousy. It's a feeling of disrespect. And that is hard. That's a tough pill when you were like, but man, come on. And I did that. You cannot live in the moment of what you did and trying to hold back the potential for bigger success. And that's just the facts. If there's a potential for bigger success, then you got to let go of all whatever. Hey, you did great things. But guess what? Now the light is being shined. And now it is time to continue to do those great things and just say, hey, you know what? It wasn't there now, but here we go. And I think we're going to get there. We're going to get there. It's just going to take some time because this is all new. And like you say, it's going to be, there's been drops, there's been fumbles, but you know what, more from the players around than necessarily the league itself. I still feel like the league has to do a better job in marketing in some way, but I feel like the league has done a pretty good job of that, of trying to make sure that, hey, you know who our star players are, and we're putting them out there in the forefront. And so I give them kudos for that. But like you say, it's just, these little things have just got to be cleaned up, and let's just get to ball. Let's just get to ball, and I think that everything else will fall in play. Robert, I want to thank you so much for joining, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today. Once again, Robert Little joining the show, the BSO and Headline King. Have a good one, brother.
And
all right, brother. Thank you.
My bank, American Eagle Bank in South Elgin. Has your bank changed names in the last 10 years? Is your bank another faceless branch with headquarters in another city? Are you tired of earning next to nothing on your savings account or certificates of deposit? Or does your personal banker treat you like a stranger? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're ready for a new banking experience, and American Eagle is the place for you. American Eagle is a locally owned independent bank that's rooted in the community, and American Eagle customers are greeted by name and treated with the respect that they deserve. American Eagle has an innovative program, Eagle Savings, that teaches your children to save while earning prizes and rewards. American Eagle offers great rates on certificates of deposit. My bank is located in South Elgin on Randall Road between the Target and Caputo's and is open Monday through Saturday. Give them a call at 847-742-7400, and a real person will answer the phone. American Eagle Bank, a place where you matter.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410. Elgin time, 11 o'clock.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The second week of the Israel-Iran war begins as talks between Europe and Iran fail to produce a breakthrough.
Israel says its war with Iran could turn into a lengthy campaign as the second week of assaults begins. Early Saturday, the Israeli military struck an Iranian nuclear research facility and killed 3 senior Iranian commanders. And President Donald Trump is weighing active U.S. military involvement in Iran, which Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says would be very, very dangerous for everyone. I'm Donna Warder.
President Trump non-committal about whether or not he will pressure Israel to stop its airstrikes.
It's very hard to stop when you look at it. Israel's doing well in terms of war, and I think you would say that Iran is doing less well. It's a little bit hard to get somebody to stop.
And a new threat coming from an Iranian official.
A senior advisor for Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei vowed in a social media post Saturday to make the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, quote, pay once the war with Israel is over. His threat comes as IAEA Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi has become a major target for many Iranian officials who say his conflicting statements about the status of Iran's nuclear program incited the Israeli surprise attack last week.
That is Ron Taylor reporting. Researchers at the cybersecurity outlet Cyber News say billions of logon credentials have been leaked.
It could be the biggest data breach in history. Reports say that login credentials for Facebook, Apple, and Google are among those that have been leaked. But there's a lot that's still unconfirmed. It appears to be multiple databases combined into one, so there could be duplicate or overlapping records.
That's correspondent Kelvin Chan. He is encouraging all users to consider updating their passwords and never to use the exact same password for all of your online logins. Breaking news at townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia, I got a tour of their headquarters, I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
The Senate this week held hearings on President Biden's declining health near the end of his term and the alleged Democrat cover-up.
We got to make sure this never happens again. I was the first senator to call for the invocation of the 25th Amendment about a year ago.
That's Republican Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri. He says it's a major scandal.
Bigger than Watergate. I mean, you had literally the President of the United States would get lost in a bathroom. And this guy was like totally incompetent, and everybody kind of knew it. They shielded him from a lot of people, but when he had that debate, then of course it was on full display, and the Democrats had nowhere to hide.
Senator Schmidt was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. Hundreds of Voice of America employees have been fired. President Trump's senior advisor to that agency, Carrie Lake, says it's part of a long overdue effort to dismantle the agency. It's part of the Trump agenda. You'll find breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. British lawmakers have backed a bill to allow terminally ill adults in England and Wales to choose to end their lives in an historic vote in Parliament that takes it a step closer to becoming law. Here's the BBC's Rob Watson.
In Britain, the proposed law would be on the more restrictive side of the international spectrum, allowing only those with a terminal diagnosis of 6 months or less to choose having help to die. Despite that narrow definition and tough safeguards, those MPs who'd voted against this major change in social policy argued the new law might still result in some people feeling pressure to end their lives for fear of being a burden.
That's the BBC's Rob Watson reporting. 2 people have died following a rock slide at Canada's Banff National Park. The first body of a victim was recovered shortly after the event on Thursday. Another was discovered on Friday by search parties. You'll find more of these stories at townhall.com.
A loved one owns a gun, and for a while now, you've been concerned about their behavior. They're just not acting like themselves. They've been distant, they've been unpredictable, they've been lashing out. They've been saying things that make you worried they might harm themselves or friends or family. Or you're worried this loved one might hurt you. Maybe they recently threatened someone with their gun. You know something needs to be done, and you wish more than anything you could hit pause on this situation. Well, here in Illinois, you can, with a firearm restraining order. In extreme cases, this order temporarily prevents a person in crisis from having a firearm, giving them time to heal before they do something dangerous or even deadly. If you are worried about a loved one in crisis who has access to a firearm, learn more about firearm restraining orders at illinois.gov/pause to heal. A public service announcement brought to you by the Illinois Department of Public Health, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the show. This is The Truth About Chicago Sports with your host, Marcus Mack on WRMN 1410 AM. Let's go. We had the great Robert Little join us, accredited journalist. Robert Little, please, if you want to go find him, go anywhere, Twitter/X, Facebook, Instagram. Simply look up Robert Little. Also, the BSO. Look up BSO Black Sports Online, where you can find Robert Little, as well as Headline Kings. Robert Little came on and joined us today as we broke down NBA news. We broke down ring chasing culture. We talked about WNBA as well, and the season that Chicago Sky are having currently. Now I'm being joined by my brother Blake Cowell, who was not able to come into studio today, but he did leave a little nugget of some baseball to talk it as he recapped the baseball week, and I'm going to give you guys that audio right now.
And welcome back to the show. This is The Truth About Chicago Sports on WRMN 1410 AM. It's me, Blake Cowell, talking to you about this week's news and notes of baseball across the Chicagoland area. I love baseball. We're in the perfect season right now for me. There's a lot of people that the sports calendar winds down and they think it's over. They think that sports are done until training camp. We have NBA Finals tomorrow night at Game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers. I know Marcus Mack and Robert Little will be breaking that all down for you guys on this episode of The Truth About Chicago Sports. But when basketball ends, some of the best sports of the year to be played right now. This is the marathon of a 162 baseball game season, and we're almost halfway done. Now, we have kind of the yin and yang of baseball here in Chicago. Unfortunately, one of the teams on the south side is not performing very well, and we have a team on the north side that is performing very well. And I want to start with the team on the south side, the Chicago White Sox. I will say this about the White Sox. I have always been very fair about the White Sox, and I've also always quietly rooted for the White Sox. As a Cubs guy, I want to see the city do well. I want to see the city sports do well, because when the city's doing well, the fans are hype, they're in it, they're in love, and I know that White Sox fans are good fans. I know this. Right now, they're 23-52. They sit a bottom of the AL Central. They're 1-9 and are on an 8-game losing streak. So talking about the Chicago White Sox here, 24.5 games back in their division, trailing the Detroit Tigers. This week, they lost a series to the Texas Rangers. They've won one of the games, but they lost the other two, and then they were swept by the St. Louis Cardinals. But there is a player that I do want to talk about from that last weekend series against the Texan Rangers, and that is Mr. Aaron Savale, the guy who they traded for from the Milwaukee Brewers. They traded Andrew Vaughn straight up for Aaron Savale, and he kind of impressed in his debut. He kind of impressed me in his Chicago White Sox debut. 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts in his White Sox debut. Hey, I'm going to tell you this much, White Sox fans. If you're getting something of value for Andrew Vaughn, that's another good trade by Chris Getz. I don't think again, I'm a Cubs guy, and I don't want to hype up the White Sox too much, but as a sports pundit in this city and someone who is co-hosting one of the hot new shows in town, The Truth About Chicago Sports on WRMN 1410, like you're listening to right now, I got to give credit to Chris Getz where credit is due. I liked Aaron Savale. I believe he had a brief stint with the Tampa Bay Rays. And now that I'm saying that, I want to fact check myself and make sure. Because I think at one point, yeah, he had a brief stint on the Tampa Bay Rays. But that's neither here nor there. I think Chris Getz did a good job with this trade. He obviously is trading away Andrew Vaughn, someone who didn't really provide a lot of asset to their team, and bring in Aaron Savale. Yeah, it looks like here in 2013, the back half of 2023, Aaron Savale had a stint with the Tampa Bay Rays. In 2023, he went 2-3 with a 5.34 ERA. And in 2024, he went 8-9 ERA. So nothing too crazy to write home about. However, like I said, in baseball, starting pitching such a hot commodity, and we'll talk a little bit about it with the Cubs when we get to that point. Good quality starting pitching in Major League Baseball costs a ton of money. It's one of the more hyperinflated positions in the sport, as all these players rise in value. And before the collective bargaining agreement in 2027, I guess we'll kind of see, or after 2026, so into the 2027 season, I guess we'll kind of see then where that shifts to. But right now, good pitching gets you paid in Major League Baseball. We saw a guy like Nathan Eovaldi get paid, I want to say $23 million. We saw a guy like Chris Sale who's getting paid $23 million at 36 years old. We saw a guy like Matthew Boyd, we would definitely will talk about here in a minute, with the Chicago Cubs get $14.5 million for him not even really pitching a full healthy season in his career. So we see how this position is structured and how much it costs to keep guys that pitch well. And I think Aaron Savale is a guy that, no, he might not be on your next great White Sox team, but I'll tell you this much. He's a guy that can get you an asset for another great White Sox team. So it'll be interesting to see what Chris Getz does with this player specifically as the trade deadline approaches, because the White Sox will not be buying. They will definitely be selling. And it really will intrigue me what pieces they're willing to sell off. Is that Luis Robert Jr.? I know we talked about that last week. I don't think anyone's really going to pay a lot for Luis Robert Jr., so I find it tough. So this is a name that I am watching. Another player who I do want to talk about, he's one of the newcomers on this team, Kyle Teal. He was acquired in the Garrett Crochet trade, former Boston Red Sox farmhand, and he's getting some action here at the major league level with the White Sox. Small sample size. I will preface this whole Kyle Teal segment on a small sample size. The funny thing about baseball nerds is this: when there's a small sample size and they're doing really well, they post all about it, including myself. I am the biggest victim and the biggest culprit of doing this. When there's a small sample size and someone's performing well, I will share those stats everywhere because they're fun, they're exciting, and I love to do it. But when they're performing bad, you don't want to look at it too much because, again, it is a small sample size. But I will say this about Kyle Teal. So far in 25 ABs with the major league team, Kyle Teal has a 31% K rate. So he's striking out about 1 in every 3 at bats. He's averaging a strikeout a game, essentially, when you think about it. Sometimes less if they get 4 or 5 at bats. Not something that I'm concerned about. Again, not something I'm concerned about, small sample size, but something that I will be watching. Because in baseball, as we know, if you have a high K rate and a low walk rate, not very good. It means your on-base percentage is going to struggle. If you have a low K rate and a high base on balls rate, yeah, that's pretty good. You're not self-inflicting outs. You're putting pressure on the defense by just simply putting the ball in play. But I will say this about his walk rate. It's 18%. That's pretty good. So he's striking out a lot, but he's walking a lot. So this player profile is pretty interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see what that kind of develops into as he starts getting more at-bats here at the major league level, because striking out a lot is not a good thing. But if you're walking a lot and kind of countering that with getting a free base on balls, something I can live with. But again, 25 ABs is still early. The MLB is a very a reactionary league, not a reactionary league, but an act and react kind of league. Who's going to make the adjustments? And Kyle Teal is going to have to make a lot of adjustments to be a quality major league ball player. One more guy I want to talk about the White Sox before we switch to the north side. It is Michael Tauchman, the Palatine Pounder, former Chicago White Sox. Got to give him some credit here. He's OPSing 829. And the reason I bring up Mike Tauchman is because I'm going to give a hashtag vote. Hashtag vote White Sox to the All-Star game. Hashtag vote Mike Tauchman to the All-Star game. The first All-Star game rankings, player rankings came out to see where everyone kind of stands right now and who's going to make the All-Star team. Mike Tauchman is right now 3rd in DH voting. He has 177,000 votes. He is behind Ryan O'Hearn of the Baltimore Orioles and Ben Rice of the New York Yankees. And Ben Rice only has 232,000 60,000. So he's about 60,000 votes ahead of Mike Tauchman. Hashtag vote Mike Tauchman in the All-Star game. Let's get him in there. Let's get a White Sox starting in the All-Star game by chance. Hey, just because you're 24 and a half games out doesn't mean you can't find some silver linings. Mike Tauchman's a guy who we were talking about earlier, guys they might be selling on. Mike Tauchman is going to be one of those guys. He's not really a guy that you're going to count to anchor a lineup, but as we saw with the Cubs, great supplementary piece. I know when they DFA'd, or I guess they non-tendered Mike Tauchman last offseason, I was pretty upset because if you're getting Mike Tauchman as your fourth outfielder, a guy who right now is getting enough playing time, but if you're on a contending team and you need to just someone to go eat at bats and eat playing time on a contending team as the season gets to the dog days, again, this is a marathon. Right now we're in the heat of this marathon. We're not even halfway done with the marathon. But in this little stretch run of the end of June and the month of July, who will be contenders, who will be pretenders? We know that the White Sox are neither because they're not pretending we know they're bad. So let's at least vote Mike Tauchman in the All-Star game. Even if he gets traded before, he's been a White Sox this year. He's going to get voted in as a White Sox. Let's make it happen. Now going on to the north side of Chicago, my favorite team, the Chicago Cubs. They've had a pretty up and down stretch. A pretty interesting stretch. Now, over last weekend when we last spoke, I was boots on the ground at Wrigley Field for Cubs at Pirates. At that point, the series was tied 1-1, but they wrapped up that series winning on Saturday and winning on Sunday. 2 wins against the Pirates and finishing with 3 of 4 against their division. They have yet to lose a series against an NL Central opponent. That is outstanding. If you're going to win your division, you got to take care of the other players or the other teams that are in your division, and the Cubs continually do that. I want to talk about the guy who pitched on that fine, beautiful Saturday. I'll tell you this much. If you're listening to the radio, because I'm not on the actual video feed today, I'm a ginger. And gingers get sunburnt super easily. So when I show up to Wrigley Field on Saturday and the clouds are out and there's no sunshine, and I'm almost tempted to buy a sweatshirt off the vendors on the street because I'm chilly and decided not to because I knew I'd be fine. And then I get to the bleachers and the sun comes out and I go, wait a second, I shouldn't have bought a sweatshirt. I need sunscreen. So as I'm cooking out there in the bleachers, in the sun beating down on me, I got sunburned. But it was all good fun because the Cubs won that day, and a lot of it had to do with Matthew Boyd. Matthew Boyd's getting paid $14.5 million this year to absolutely shove on his opponents. I'm just going to call it how I see it because, again, this is the truth about Chicago sports. And Jed Hoyer had an absolute masterclass with this signing of Matthew Boyd. So last Saturday, he goes 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and 3 strikeouts. He did pitch again yesterday against the Seattle Mariners, and what did he do in that game? Well, he goes 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, and 6 strikeouts. So in the last 2 starts since we all last spoke, he's done nothing but pitch crazy good baseball. 11 innings pitched total, 3 earned runs, and only 9 strikeouts. So he doesn't strike out a ton of guys. He had more today than he did on Saturday. But this guy's been really good. This guy has been very good on the season. He's been 6-3 with a 2.84 ERA, a 2.44 batting average against, and an OPS against of only 683. So when we talk about batters and their OPS, really you don't want to see a 6. If their batting average or if their OPS starts with a 6, they're probably not that good of a hitter. They could have a high batting average, but a low slugging. But like I've mentioned in the past, today's baseball game is kind of rooted on 1, can you get on base? And 2, can you not only hit the long ball, but can you slug for me a little bit? We've seen guys like Luis Arraez kind of get some criticism for how good his batting average is, but how low WAR that he accumulates over a season because he doesn't do much but hit singles. I mean, there was a day where Tony Gwynn was regarded as one of the best baseball players of all time because he would just hit it where you're not. He would find every hole and he would just hit it where you're not. And there's no trash to Tony Gwynn, rest in peace. But in today's game, that's not valued a ton. It'd be very interesting to see what people say about Tony Gwynn if he played in today's game. But that's neither here nor there. Back to the Cubs. Matthew Boyd was great. part of that 3 of 4 wins over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ian Happ had a walk-off last Sunday, and Colin Ray, who was also getting, I don't want to say criminally underpaid, but we're paying him $5 million to give us chances to win. I think his home splits ERA is under 4, and it might be closer to 3.2. I'll have to double-check on that on Baseball Savant. I didn't have that stat written down specifically, but Colin Ray's been very good. Definitely worth more than $5 million that we're paying him. Another game that I want to highlight from this week from the Cubs, the PCA game. And I'm saying the PCA game very lightly because PCA's had a ton of games, and PCA is very good. And we're going to keep talking about PCA here as the segment rolls on. But on Tuesday night, we saw why this guy is a superstar in Major League Baseball. Let's flash back to Tuesday night. The Cubs have a 1-run lead. I believe it was a 3-4 lead against the Milwaukee Brewers in the top of the 8th inning. And there was a ball hit toward the gap. PCA takes after it, or chases after it, makes a lunging catch, and makes an incredible grab. If you want to check it out on my Twitter, Blake Cowell X on X, I will have it up over there. I'll actually probably pin it to my profile. So if you're listening and you did not see that catch, go take a look at it on my profile. It was an incredible catch, a catch that the Warmonger on Twitter, shout out the Warmonger. He breaks down, players WAR, W-A-R, talks about catch probability for outfielders. So when we talk about catch probability, it factors in expected batting average, factors in the jump that runners get. So it really quantifies how hard catches in baseball are in today's baseball game. In today's baseball landscape, there's so many stats now to quantify players. It's so deeply rooted in analytics. It's actually incredibly impressive. But according to the Warmonger on Twitter, this was a 5% catch rate. So 95% of the time this ball falls, PCA finds a way to grab it with a 1-run lead. They go into the bottom half of the inning, and the first pitch of the bottom half, Pete Henry Crow Armstrong hits a home run off of the right field scoreboard to give the Cubs one more insurance run, lead 3-5, which would have been the difference. And it's just good to get that insurance run. They didn't need it, but they wanted it. And Pete Crow Armstrong showed again that he can do it on both sides of the field. And it was, again, just another one of those glaring moments that we look at and say, yeah, that is a player that can anchor your team. That is a player that when October rolls around and the game's on the line and the pressure's the highest, the stars will shine the brightest. They don't always shine the brightest, but if you want to win, in my opinion, there will be guys and girls who tell you differently, but in my opinion, to win the World Series and to make deep October runs under this current collective bargaining agreement in Major League Baseball, you need a superstar. You need at least one. We saw last year the Dodgers and the Yankees, superstars littered all over the field. We saw the Texas Rangers, they had superstars. We saw the Braves when they won a few years ago, they had superstars. We've seen the Cubs when they won. We've seen the Nationals when they won. Name me a team. I'm going to say this and someone will because I'm going to be blanking on it. Name me a team in the last 5 to 6 years in Major League Baseball that won the World Series without a bona fide superstar. And again, I'm kind of making that take off cuff, and I'm trying to look back into my notes here to see if maybe there's someone who I'm missing. Because I don't want to just say things on the radio without anything actually backing it. And I'm trying to look at the past World Series winners. So, yeah, we look at the Dodgers last year, stars. Texas Rangers, Corey Seager, he's a star. Oh, we look at the Houston Astros in 2022. They had superstars, Jose Altuve, as well as, I'm blanking on his name now, Yordan Alvarez. The Braves, they had superstars. Oh, and then 2020, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yeah, Mookie Betts. Yeah, he's a superstar. So stars all over the field, and the Cubs have that, and Pete Crow Armstrong. Let's go now to a little bit of the All-Star Game report for the Cubs. We talked about it a little bit with the White Sox. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The Cubs are all over this list. So we have to also go out and hashtag vote Chicago Cubs to the All-Star Game. They need our help. They need our help. Carson Kelly right now is second amongst all catchers to get voted into the All-Star Game amongst the American League. He has 408,000. Michael Busch is third amongst first basemen. That'll be pretty tough. Freddie Freeman and Pete Alonso are currently ahead of him. They're both having great seasons. So vote Michael Busch. It's going to be tough, though. Nico Horner, he's third. I think we can vote him in. Vote Nico Horner. Matt Shaw fourth. I think he's getting a little bit of this good team boost. He's fourth amongst third basemen with only having a couple not a great season. I mean, he's still a rookie. So Seiya Suzuki, he is third. He was second, but Rafael Devers gets traded to the New York Giants from the Red Sox. So he gets bumped down. Rafael Devers has more votes than Seiya Suzuki. I'll briefly touch on that here in a minute. And we get to the outfield. Your 1-2 punch right now in outfield voting is Pete Crow Armstrong with 1.12 million votes, and Kyle Tucker with 704,000 votes. They're leading the outfield 1-2. So go out and vote your Chicago Cubs to the 2024 All-Star Game, or 2025 All-Star Game, and send them to Atlanta. I want to talk very, very briefly on one of the biggest trades in baseball and baseball news. Rafael Devers of the Boston Red Sox gets traded to the San Francisco Giants. This was an interesting trade, and I'll tell you why. Rafael Devers had a lot of, quote, character concerns with the Red Sox. When they went out and signed Alex Bregman, they asked him to switch to DH or first base. He said, nope, I play third. They asked him to play other positions, do other things. He said, nope, I play third. You didn't tell me this. You promised me this position. The person that promised him third base is in St. Louis, and that's Chaim Bloom, who will be taking over as president of baseball operations for the St. Louis Cardinals next year. He is no longer with the Red Sox. Craig Breslow, who is the current general manager of the Red Sox, did not promise him that. And he's saying, hey, I want to make this team better. Rafael Devers, can you switch positions? He's saying, nope, not doing that, not happening. Craig Breslow says, okay, we're going to trade you. And I will tell you, as someone who loves baseball and as someone who has seen big trades go down with his own team before the Chicago Cubs and have traded for prospects, I don't think the Boston Red Sox cared if they lost this trade. I don't think they cared that they didn't get the return they probably could have if they shopped the market on Rafael Devers. I believe, and this is my opinion, that Craig Breslow said, okay, you don't want to change positions. You don't want to help the team win and benefit us by changing positions to a new side of the diamond. We don't want you here. You don't want to be a team player. We don't want you here. You trade him over the Giants. I want to say, I'm going to look it up real quick. I believe the main package in this was James Tibbs III, prospect that was out of Florida State. He comes over in the trade, as well as Jordan Hicks and a couple other pitchers from the Giants. So, I mean, don't get it twisted, too. We actually spoke with Brett Bateman very briefly, Cubs prospect, about this trade. And he mentioned, hey, man, like, don't get it twisted. James Tibbs is an absolute baller, plays great defense, can give you some other assets and other parts of his game. And I believe him. I believe Brett Bateman, Cubs prospect. Check him out. He made a fantastic catch. He had Knoxville Smokies play of the week last week, just hit his first home run. But they could have gotten more. And I think Craig Breslow knows that. But we will see. In his press conference, he says, hey, you might be surprised that we'll win more games than we thought we could without Devers. I don't believe that, but we will see. I will not call him a liar until the proof is in the pudding. We will see that soon. But thank you for listening to this week's Baseball Report. Again, this is the truth about Chicago sports on WRMN 1410 AM. And I was your host of the segment, Blake Cowell. Make sure to follow me on Blake Cowell X on X and Blake Cowell X on all platforms. Enjoy the rest of your show with your host, Marcus Mack. Till next time.
Cowell, once again, brother Blake Cowell giving us the Baseball Report breakdown. He could not join in studio today, so we were glad to have him join us. A very awesome job, Blake. Once again, this is the truth about Chicago sports. When we return, the great Sophia Blackburn will be joining us here on WRMN 1410 AM.
When disaster strikes, flood or fire, every second counts. At Emergency Construction Group, they specialize in immediate response and same-day service for any residential, commercial, or industrial emergency across the Chicagoland area. With over 30 years of experience, they've got the expertise, manpower, and equipment to handle any size loss fast. They follow strict IICRC guidelines to restore your property the right way, the first time. Their team values transparency, constant communication, and strong ethical standards because your peace of mind matters. Licensed, bonded, and insured, They're here for you 24/7, 365 days a year. Call 855-4ECG now. That's 855-432-4669. Or visit their website at emergencyconstructiongroup.com and let Emergency Construction Group put your life back together one step at a time. That's Emergency Construction Group. Your satisfaction is their passion.
This is the Chef of Love, Chef Jannard, TV host and restaurateur. My grandparents harvested their land to sell food and share this overflowing bounty with our community. Grandma said, for every yam we pick, we give one away. In the world they cultivated, I love preparing and eating dinner with my family on Sundays. When our resources changed, food assistance programs sustained us. They gave me fuel to start my first culinary business at 16 years old, and inspiration to donate the extra food in my community. Through my life, I've developed an appetite to work with others to ensure everyone has access to the nutritious food we need to thrive. Together, we can help end hunger. Come on, join the movement with Feeding America by volunteering, donating, and advocating. Learn more at feedingamerica.org/act now.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Tune in to Big Top Sports
with Derek Geyer every weeknight from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
He'll have sports thoughts from the center ring of Chicagoland and to the outer rings from across the nation.
Weather from Chicago Cubs,
White Sox,
Bulls,
Bears,
Blackhawks,
Stars,
Fire,
Boomers, whatever the national story is of the day.
Geyer and his sports czar takes will either have you nodding in agreement,
yelling at the radio,
or in all honesty,
a bit of both.
With the way the Chicagoland sports and sports are in general, there's bound to be
thrills,
chills, and
oh my God moments. So get your snacks and libations ready,
because this is going to be a wild ride.
Big Top Sports with Derek Geyer's quirky and insightful Fanatics take
will make you feel a little
or a lot better about your Chicagoland sports viewing experiences.
Tune in to Big Top Sports with Derek Geyer every weeknight from 6 p.m.
to 8 p.m.
At Britain's Touchless Car Wash, they know life gets busy. That's why they're here 24/7 to keep your car looking spotless, fast, and easy. Their advanced brush-free wash technology delivers a sparkling clean without a single scratch, because they treat your car like it's their own. Here's the best part. Right now, you can get a free car wash just for joining their text club. It's simple. Just text BRITT to 30400, and your first wash is on them. Britain's Touchless Car Wash has two convenient locations, 1923 Larkin Avenue in Elgin and 555 Willow in West Dundee. They're proud to keep your car clean while giving back to our community. Text BRITT to 30400. That's BRITT to 30400. Now for your free car wash, and see why Britain's Touchless Car Wash is the fast, gentle, and reliable choice.
Hello, there we go. Welcome back to the show. This is The Truth About Chicago Sports here on WRMN 1410 AM. I'm missing my brother from another, Mr. Blake Cowell, but guess who we are joined by again? The great, the wonderful, the amazing Sophia Blackburn. Welcome back to the show.
Hello. Yes, I've been busy with another job.
You know how life goes, but hey, we're glad that you could be back today. And you know what? It's coming on the heels of an amazing hockey season has come to another end. A little bit bittersweet, right? Because it was such a really good, fun, exciting season. And now it's over as we saw the Florida Panthers defeat the Edmonton Oilers 4-2 in a 5-1 ending on the final game 6. Edmonton just seemed like after they lost that pivotal game 5, that it was just their will was sucked out of them and they just looked completely lifeless in this game 6. Sophia, give me your thoughts about this NHL finals and what did you think about the rematch of the Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers from last year's championship?
Well, I'm kind of okay. Well, we all know I love my Canadians, so I'm kind of really upset that the Panthers won, but the series lived up to the hype. It was fast, it was physical, and full of momentum swings. Like, both teams were playing good, but Florida really brought structure and grit, while Edmonton conquered with speed and star power. It was a good 2-2 tie, so, like, the game overall was, like, who's gonna win? Like, nobody knew who was gonna win, but everybody kind of knew Florida was gonna win. I mean, it's just they pulled it away. Florida pulled it away right under the Oilers, and it's just I don't know. There's just so much to talk about it. It's just insane that Florida was able to like repeat again, especially with like the way that their goaltending went, the way that all their lines went. Just they just Florida just took control, basically.
They took control. They dominated, and you know the thing about it is that you called it. Brandon Combs called it. I think even Mikey even said the same thing too. That even though you told me your heart wanted to go with Edmonton, you said Florida was going to more than likely take this series, and you know that they've come into their own. I mean, obviously this is their back to back now wins. They were in the finals, I believe, before they won the first championship last year. So they've been in the finals, I think, 3 years now in a row, and we're just starting to see a really dominant team that's starting to put their grips on the NHL world. So I got to ask you then, what can Edmonton do to get over the hump? Or is it over? Is that window closed for Connor McDavid for now? I'm not going to say his whole career, but at least for now.
No, definitely not. I definitely think that Edmonton still has a chance. You know, they've made it to playoffs how many times now? Especially 2 times in a row to be in the Stanley Cup, to try to win the Stanley Cup. So they're definitely still in the game and so on and so forth. But Edmonton needs to tighten up their defense and they need to get more consistent goaltending. That's been like literally their Achilles heel is their goaltending. That's what's been kind of shooting them in the back a little bit. They've got an elite offense talent with McDavid and Draisaitl.
I think it's Draisaitl.
Draisaitl. But, you know, playoff success means like winning the battles with in your own zone and like limiting mistakes. They've been playing good. They have a great team. I think it's definitely just like the goaltending and the communication on the ice, and definitely like just they need to add more like depth to their scoring and maybe like going a little bit more from their blue line with more physicality and reliability with their blue line will also help a lot more. If they can balance their speed and their skill with tougher, smarter defensive plays, they'll be a serious contender and probably win more games in the future and definitely probably try to make it and win that Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and you know that's like I said, it's kind of a tough conversation in some ways because you know you see a team if they go to a finals, they lose twice. It's kind of like, man, is it done for? But with a guy like Connor McDavid, I would never say it because he's so talented. He is the face of the NHL. And to be honest, I mean, I was talking about this with Robert Little earlier when he was on the show about ring culture, about ring chasing culture, and how LeBron made this statement that it was toxic to the NBA, which is funny because he has a ring. But I also think that, period, in any sport, rings do validate someone. I don't want to go out and say that Connor McDavid's career is going to be fine. He doesn't need a ring to validate. But in the pantheon of great hockey players, when you start to compare him to those, the Gretzkys, the Lemieux, the Crosbys, they've all won. And so you can't, I don't feel like you can say he's one of the greatest if he doesn't win. And now that's just my personal opinion. I could be being very hard on him. But if he does not ever win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be hard for me to put him up there. I mean, even Ovi's got one, you know? So, I mean, I feel like he needs one, just one.
Yeah, he definitely just needs one. I definitely think he's carried this team. Obviously, his teammates have also carried the team, but he's the name of the team. Like, every team has that one player where they just put the weight of the world on their back, and that's definitely McDavid. And I definitely think that like he he's doing the most. He's doing everything he can, but it all comes down to defense and goaltending and the skills and the speeds. I think they're thinking faster than they're playing. And so I think that's where the mistakes are coming. And it's definitely, there were some easy mistakes that were made in the game where it was like, okay, what are you doing? Like, why are we slowing down the momentum? But also you got to think about, wasn't the game at the Panthers arena.
Right.
So you got the fans screaming. You got the blaring of the siren when the Panthers make a goal. It's like just a tense environment, and you know everything that's on your back. You know.
Yep, life gets sucked out of you real fast, real fast.
Yeah.
Are the Panthers a dynasty?
Ooh, okay. Well, it's definitely in conversation for sure. It definitely is. With 2 straight Stanley Cup wins, they definitely belong within the conversation, winning back-to-back. In today's tough NHL is no joke. It shows they've got talent, depth, and mindset to compete at the highest level consistently. While some dynasties last longer, the Panthers have at least started one. It's the beginning of something new.
Does this Florida run hurt or help the NHL's popularity?
So I feel like that definitely depends on who you ask. If you ask Panther fans, they're going to be, no, it doesn't hurt at all. If you ask any other type of fan, yeah, it definitely does. I mean, it's a mixed bag. So like, as for their run, for how their run affects the NHL popularity, it's like literally, like I said, it's a mixed bag. Their success is great for growing hockey in places like Florida. You know, you wouldn't expect a team from Florida winning back-to-back. Like, Florida's hot. It's humid.
Right. No ice.
You don't think there's going to be, like, ice rinks down there in the South. Like, you definitely think it's more of a Midwest, like, Eastern and, like, Canadian thing, you know? But, like, I mean, it's not a huge traditional thing down in Florida, but I mean, it brings new fans and energy to the league. But recent finals, like, showing, I looked it up. The TV ratings are low, especially in the U.S., which means the NHL still has to do work reaching a broader audience. On the plus side, though, social media engagement has been strong, so fans are definitely paying attention, just in different ways. Like, after they won, I'm seeing all over my Instagram, for Facebook maybe, and like just threads everywhere, TikTok, Snapchat. You're seeing that the Panthers are just having so much fun with this.
Yes.
They're waking up their neighbors at 5 a.m., going out to best clubs in Miami.
They're
Like,
having the time of their life.
Brad is definitely having some fun out there.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, it's a mixed bag because, you know, to have a team that can be dominant, it creates intrigue, it creates interest. It's like, hey, pay attention to this team. There's something going on. At the same time, we know that it's not one of the big market teams in the league, in the NHL league, not just, I mean, in the sports pantheon. Let's just be honest, it's hard to market in Florida, period. There's no team in any sports league where the Florida team is just riding this high wave of popularity. It's just kind of how that state goes. You could look at baseball, you could even go to basketball, now to the NHL. It's just not the place where people are saying, oh, hey, I'm going to go watch a Florida team play in anything, really. You know, it just doesn't generate like that. They're not across the nation like that. And so I think that them winning, it hurts in terms of marketing in some ways, because obviously if a Detroit's winning, if a Chicago's winning, you know, if Canada, pick any one of the Canadian teams wins, this gets hyped up way more. Let's just be real about that. If Edmonton won, Connor McDavid's name is being screamed everywhere. Edmonton's going wild. Canada's screaming to the top of their lungs. And it's not just the Panthers won again. You feel me? Because it almost is kind of like the Panthers won again. You know? I
mean, I will say myself, I mean, I tuned into the game a little bit, but I was just like, I already know who's going to win.
Yep.
Like,
Writing's on the wall.
And I was like, I don't feel like I need to watch the rest of this game.
No intrigue.
Like, I watched like the end. I watched the last period, but I mean, it was just like, I already know who's going to win. I had other things going on. The game's on in the background. But, I mean, it's just like, it wasn't just on my top priority. Like, I literally forgot about it.
No.
As someone who loves watching hockey, I was like, I already know who's going to win.
I felt the same way. There was never really a moment where I was like, ooh, Edmonton. I wanted Edmonton to win. I would have liked it because just to end the Canadian drought of the NHL finals championship. But I also was like, man, Panthers look really strong. They're the defending champs. And they came in. The fact that Edmonton had home ice and Florida walked right in and won, that's when I knew. I said, oh man, this, I don't know. It didn't look too good, you know. It didn't at all. Which teams are favored for the start of the next season or the new season that will start up at the end of this year?
So I definitely looked this one up too because, you know, everybody has different opinions. For me, I would definitely say Blackhawks and Red Wings.
Okay. See, that's my girl. That's me right there. Bam.
But I had to look it up because not everybody's going to have the same opinion as us. But definitely, obviously, Florida Panthers and Edmonton Oilers. Like, are we stupid? Definitely, it's basically everybody that was in the playoffs. So
those are the main players.
Avalanche, Carolina Hurricanes, Dallas Stars. But those are like the 5 main teams probably favored for next season. But also you got to think about the Vegas Golden Knights, Tampa Bay Lightning, and New Jersey Devils, which are also in the mix. But I mean, the Panthers, Oilers, and Avalanche are they're currently leading the pack in early predictions. So it's just like all the teams that we saw trying to get to the Stanley Cup are all the same teams. Like, it's just going to be a repeat for a while unless someone brings in like a new rookie or a disastrous trade is made and they did for. I mean, it was good for the Panthers that Brad got traded, but like, you know what I mean? Like, Brad was in Pittsburgh and then he got traded to Florida. Like, unless it's like a trade like that, like, I don't know. It's up to the leagues now.
No, you're right. Unless there's like some major shakeup, it's probably just gonna be the same major players because we still see like a team like Chicago. We want Chicago to do great, but we know they're not. We know they're just not there yet. You know. And looks like we actually got a commercial break that's kicking in here. Sophia, stick with me, and we're going to come back after this break on WRMN 1410 AM.
Exploring rewarding careers and achieving their dreams. A place for doers, thinkers, and believers. At ECC, we see you, we believe in you, and you'll fit right in. Learn more at elgin.edu/belong.
Welcome to WRMN, your trusted voice in the Fox River Valley for over 75 years. We bring you fact-based news, good faith discussions, and entertainment that brings people together. From national headlines to local stories, WRMN is your home for thoughtful dialogue and community engagement. No matter the time of day, where you're listening from, or who you are always welcome here. Thanks for making us a part of your day. This is the Talk of the Town, WRMN.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Are you dreaming of a getaway? Want to leave the stress of daily life behind? Whether it's a relaxing cruise or an adventurous land escape, planning the perfect vacation doesn't have to be a hassle. At Cruises International, they specialize in vacation destinations, land and sea, making your dreams come true. Located at 1721 Moon Lake Boulevard in Hoffman Estates, Cruises International isn't just about booking travel. They're your personal concierge, trusted travel advisor, and advocate. Your preferences are unique, and they'll take the time to understand exactly what you're looking for. From personalized service to their global network of specialists, they ensure that your vacation is tailor-made just for you. It's time to plan the vacation of a lifetime. Call 800-255-7447. That's 800-255-7447 today and speak to a cruise and vacation expert. Cruises International. It's time to set sail to your dream destination.
Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Theriault Booth, a leading local law firm, is located on the beautiful Fox River in downtown St. Charles. Here's Ryan Theriault.
For better or worse, there are just times people need a lawyer. Whether you are involved in a work injury, in an automobile crash, selling a home, or even planning for your estate after your passing, we're here. We're local. We're part of the community.
For more information, visit them on the web at tbfirm.com or give them a call at 630-526-4242.
Back to the show. This is the truth about Chicago sports here on WRMN 1410 AM. We left off talking about the NHL finals, the look preview for NHL next year, teams that we expect to be main players again for the Stanley Cup finals. And I want to finish off with my last question for you, Sophia. And I think this was a really good one to kind of give us a preview. Like I said, so we're talking next year. What should Connor Bedard's third season look like next year?
On the radio for so long that I'm just like tripping over my words. So I sound like a little Bambi deer right now. But definitely for what should we look for Connor Bedard for season 3. I definitely think I wrote this one out because there's just so much to say. So definitely by year 3, you're really expecting Bedard to hit that sweet spot where everything clicks with his skills and his confidence and overall all of his experience coming together for each game that he plays. Offensively, if he stays healthy, fingers crossed he stays healthy for the whole season. I'm looking for him to push into that 70 to 90 point range and really take over as a top scorer and playmaker for the Blackhawks. But it's just not about the numbers. Come on, guys. Not always about the numbers. Bedard's going to step up as a leader too, definitely. Maybe wearing an A on his jersey. Maybe. Or just being the key voice in the locker room that helps sets the tone since he's been there and he's definitely the name of the rebuild. So hopefully more of the younger guys, because I know we're getting a lot of younger guys on the team, will listen to him. You'll notice him playing with more consistency, cutting down on those rookie mistakes and making smarter plays when the pressure's on. Physically, he's still growing, adding strength and endurance. That means more battles won along the boards and better durability through the long, tough NHL season. Come on, he's still a teenager, right? He's 19?
He's 20, I think. I think he might be 20 now. Yeah, he's 20, going on 21.
He's still a little baby. Well, in my mind, I'm 23, so I can't say everybody who's younger than me, I think they're babies. But he's still young. He's still going to make some mistakes. You know what I mean? It's season 3 for him. But when you put it all together and you look at Bedard, he's going to be the clear face of Chicago's rebuild, as I previously said, driving their offense and helping the team get more competitive. Year 3 is when he really announces himself as one of the league's brightest youngest stars. So I'm really excited to see how he plays again this year. He's definitely got so much pressure on his back still with the rebuild, with the trades that are coming up, with the draft. So you don't know. And I mean, like I said, they're Blackhawks, Mike announced earlier on his show, they're making trades already in the dark. So it's like they're still building, they're still working behind the scenes, and Bedard's definitely staying, like he said, and he's gonna try to make it the best season yet.
Yes, indeed. Sophia, I cannot thank you enough this year. You came on board and you joined us as our hockey girl, and I just appreciate it. I say hockey woman, and you killed it this year. We're definitely looking forward to having you again next year. And I want all the listeners out there to know Sophia's going nowhere. She's going to still be with us, even though the hockey season has ended. She's still going to be dropping in. We're going to make her talk baseball. She's got no choice because baseball's happening. But also, she's going to be joining me on the Bears post-game show now that the WRMN is now partnered with the Chicago Bears for this year. We will be doing post-game show with Mike Napolitano, and Sophia will be joining us for those Bears post-game shows. So we're looking forward to that. So everyone out there, do not think that Sophia, the great Sophia Blackburn, is done. She's still right here rocking with us. And Sophia, where can they find you when they're looking for you out there in the social media world?
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, definitely, I don't like saying my Twitter handle.
No, don't. Yeah, that's okay. I'll protect you for that. But they can't find you on X. They can't find you on X.
I gotta figure that one out.
Right,
So I mean, definitely just Sophia_Blackburn, literally on anything.
Yeah, and they got you. Once again, like I said, this has been an awesome, amazing season. You crushed it. I cannot thank you enough. You have been a delight and a bright part of this team, and I appreciate you being here so much.
Yes, thank you for having me, even though I get bullied in the group chat.
Yeah, you know what? But you know what I love about you, though? You fight them. You be beating them all up. I'm like, how does my little, what is it Danish, right?
I'm Dutch.
No, my Dutch. How's my little Dutch girl out here just beating them all up? And it doesn't matter who comes up, you smack them down. And I really love how you smack Mikey P. That's the best right there. That makes my day. And guess what we found out? We found out Reverend Balake is a ginger. Who knew? Who knew the Rev was a ginger? That caught me off guard. I was like, what? Can we keep him on the team now? I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but definitely will say we'll probably talk about drafts next time I'm on.
Oh, definitely. You know, we're going to be breaking down draft picks. We're going to be having some fun with that and just talking about maybe, future roster, what it could look like leading into next year. We know we got new coach, new players coming in. Like I say, a whole new exciting hockey season will get started. And I just can't thank you enough for all the work you did this year. It was really cool for you to be a part of it. And hey, if we can get lucky next year, Red Wings and Blackhawks will have victories and be top in the league.
One can only hope.
One can only hope. Once again, thank you so much, Sophia. You have a great weekend.
You're listening to
you too. Bye-bye.
WRMN 1410 AM, Elgin, Illinois.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
It's what we were taught, trained, and told to do.
It could be for anything. Helping a friend move.
Listening to a fellow veteran for hours, at any hour of the day.
Or just simply making time for people. A neighbor, a loved one, or even a stranger.
We're often the first to help others. There's no question about it.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
Perhaps it's time to do for yourself what you would do for others.
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 12 o'clock.
Nothing. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-613-5454. 800-613-5454. 800-613-5454.
A cyber attack strikes a major health insurance company.
Aflac says it's identified suspicious activity on its network in the U.S., which may impact personal information, including Social Security numbers. The insurance company says the incident is part of a cybercrime campaign against the industry and that the intrusion was stopped within hours. Aflac says so far it's unable to determine the number of affected customers. It says it will offer free credit monitoring, identity theft protection, and medical shield for 24 months to anyone that calls its call center. I'm Donna Warder.
Researchers at cybersecurity outlet Cyber News say billions of login credentials have been leaked and compiled into data sets online, giving criminals what the site calls unprecedented access to accounts that consumers use every day. They say that consumers should take precautions to avoid having their information shared. More from townhall.com. Well, nothing stays the same forever, but it's changing faster than ever in what was once amateur sports.
College sports once rooted in tradition, school pride, and loyalty. But those expectations are changing in a landscape now where athletes have the ability to transfer season to season. Some are painted as disloyal or selfish. Athletes like Haley Van Leith and Ray Davis don't see it that way. Both played at 3 schools on their way to the pros. Van Leith in the WNBA, Davis in the NFL. They say decisions are not always about money, and note, coaches can also leave for new opportunities. Jason Walker reporting.
The University of Wisconsin and its NIL collective have sued the University of Miami, saying it knowingly induced one of the Badgers football players to abandon a lucrative name, image, and likeness contract. Breaking news at townhall.com.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Chicago defense attorney Mark Schieblo has co-authored the book titled DUI Jury Trial, which is a true story of a DUI case that he defended. The accused was an Illinois truck driver arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. This book contains facts about the case from the date of the arrest up to the jury's verdict, and this nonfiction novel also includes the transcripts from the jury trial itself. The book DUI Jury Trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Fixed bayonets, comrades. This is the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid. And today, a very special guest, one of our co-hosts, Marla. Thank you, Marla, for being here. We are on every Saturday, noon to 1. Today, noon to 2. Due to the Sox game, we fill in some of that dead air space that the Sox leave at 1 hour. We're off of WRMN 1410. Of course, you know that because you're here. The Fox River Valley Media Network. We're streaming on WRMN1410.com. Go to their website, WRMN1410.com, and either hit the YouTube button or you could hit the Listen Live button. Studio call numbers are 847-931-1410. The text number is 505-926-1410. Or you can hit us up on the YouTube Live comments. So, Paul, they just had a couple commercials on like cybersecurity leaks, which was something I was going to get into with artificial intelligence and machine learning. But, Marla, one of the things, just recently we had a contest, an oratory essay contest for the American Legion. And I had the honor of reading 100 and something essays and deciding which one was going to be the winner. of the contest. And one of the things I noticed right away was most of the essays were artificial intelligence. I mean, someone put their subject in and copied and pasted it out of Google or wherever and put it into essay format. So as a professor, Marla, do you see that being an ongoing problem in academia?
I noticed that with my own students, you could tell sometimes if the writing is different, if they copy and paste or, copy and paste different sections, for example, in a document. And I learned the old way. You did too, Paul, where we would just, think about what to write. But if it's a problem or not, it depends on who the audience is. I think that sometimes, for example, in the classroom, teachers just want you to get the student to get the information, and however they get it legally, obviously, is okay.
Yeah,
so personally, I don't like it because I think one of the reasons people are in school is they're trying to better themselves and be able to go out into the world and function well. And be able to articulate and whatever. And I think if you're doing everything with the touch of a button, it's a problem. But do the schools care? There's plagiarism tools. There's all kinds of what software people can use. But I have noticed it, yes. And I've noticed it recently in the last year. I don't like it personally.
There's also another impact to this too. A lot of times, it's my understanding from what people tell me, because I have a lot of teachers in my family, they don't use proper grammar. They're using it as bullet points, and they get away with having to form grammatical sentences, and it's almost like you're reading it off of, like Wikipedia. And there's bullet points, and then there's just a statement. And they get away without having to make that bridge and doing creative writing that way.
And I actually teach communications, one of the topics I teach. But I think it depends if we're talking about the classroom environment, how the instructor frames a question. So you want to maybe add something that they have to think about. It's not just all going to be off the internet.
Yeah,
ideally, you get information and then you want to put it in your own words. But you're both right. People are not all doing that, and it does bother me, and I don't think it's right.
I think it's also important to bring up, as part of the assignment, something that was only discussed in class.
Something unique.
So that it requires them to actually have some critical thinking and input besides going to a AI source,
Didn't you tell me some things don't carry over, Paul, though? Like certain pieces, like a picture or something, hands don't move, or so you said.
Well, in the AI, I've noticed that, because I've watched a lot, is they can't get the hands correctly. And then sometimes a hand will come out of their forehead, right? Or they, you'll see they put gloves on them because they can't do the hands. Everything else is great, but they can't do the hands, or a hand comes out of the head.
So I'm not big into the programming and everything, and into all the coding that makes that. But they put in for these AI generated photographs, and they look a lot like people, and they'll actually take real people. They'll go out in the database and they'll search out this type of person, right? Blonde female. So they'll search out and they'll find some of the most popular ones, and then they'll extrapolate, take that person and remove everything else from the picture. And they're looking for certain outlines. And sometimes someone else's arm will be in that outline, and it'll just cut it, and that arm will remain there like it's coming out of someone's shoulder. I could see all that stuff. And that's easy. That's great. That makes it easy to spot. And like when we were going through one of my last Army courses, like the highest level warrant officer course, you get the Warrant Officer Senior Staff Education, or WASI, and they would give you a subject, or you would select a subject that you wanted to write on, and then when you sent it into them, they would put it through the plagiarism program. So they bought a plagiarism program. And if you were above like 30% plagiarism, they'd bounce it back to you and make you do it again. Because what was happening back in the day is one soldier would write a paper, it would be pretty good, and then he would will that paper down to the next person in line to go to that school. And that person would bring that paper and submit the exact same paper. You know, and the instructors are turning over like every 3 years too, so you don't have a good, you know, a guy with the long memory that's saying, hey, I remember this from last month or whatever, and catching it. So now everything's submitted digitally, you know, so in Word, so it's easier to submit and all that stuff. But that's on the high level, at the highest level. And by that time in the military, with all the training that you have, you should be able to write some sort of coherent paper to transmit your thoughts on a subject to your supervisor. But apparently, at every level you go to, they're giving you the same training because someone has squeaked through and not been able to do that as of yet.
Well, you have to look at why you're using the tech tool, the technology. It's supposed to enhance what you're doing, not just do it for you.
Yes, it's great to be able to search Google, to search Wikipedia and everything, and to listen, to read that, and to say, oh, and then to put it together in your brain and say, well, this is what it means to me, and then regurgitate it out and place it on the paper in your own language, you know, in colloquial speech or in a flowing speech. One of my friends said, when I write my books, he says, you write exactly like you talk. And a lot of people are highly trained in journalism. They're highly trained in the English language, and they're very perfect in their speech. They don't end sentences in prepositions. So, you know, they could take offense to that style of writing. My mother does. She was a legal clerk for years before she became a lawyer, and she really can take offense to it. And I'm like, Ma, it's not a mistake, it's my style. That's like an author's privilege there when you're writing for yourself. But all right, so when it comes to that, and everything's now like in a database, and you're searching for stuff with plagiarism, it's like, where are these databases being stored? Who has access to them? I mean, who has control over them?
Well, the search engine, Google has the Google stuff, right? And
you know, you run into a problem with that, though, because a lot of major universities and stuff like that, they have banks, like dissertation banks or brief banks, or law firms have a brief bank where you've used the same argument in the past, and law review articles and things like that. And that poses an interesting thing with study guides and things like that too, because many authors write books on the same subject, and the information is the same in all of them, yet they didn't plagiarize each other. So, you know, like, there's so many, like, say, for instance, when you're talking about fingerprints, there's a tented arch, or there's a swirl, or there's a reverse loop. So when you read criminology books about training criminologists, they all have the same information. So it's really not plagiarizing per se, because there's only so many ways that you could call it a tented arch, or a swirl, or a reverse loop, or, you know, an anomalous line. So, I mean, it presents a problem in certain areas, but not in others. And like I said, a lot of law firms, they would have what they call the brief bank. And then you would go, you know, whatever the subject was, there would be a brief in there that was already done, and you'd have to look up the modern, you know, to follow the cases. But, you know, that doesn't mean somebody's plagiarizing something if it's general and common knowledge. And that's a problem I have with the AI stuff, because a lot of it is still general and common knowledge. So there's, you know, like if you were talking about, you know, I think it was July 15th, 1776 was when Custer was killed at the Little Bighorn.
1876.
What was it?
1876.
1876. So there's only so many things you could talk about, Reno Ridge or, this or that. So if you're writing about it, it's all been written before, but you didn't necessarily plagiarize it. You may have used primary sources and things like that.
You need to cite the source.
Well, you do, but I mean, you can't cite everything because it was a historical event and it happened.
Yeah. Now, what Marla said is you need to check your sources, and not just check your sources, check the sources, and then check the sources of the sources, and then even check further back than that. One of the things that just happened is, I guess, there I failed again with my ums. Just recently, our vice president had applied for a membership in Twitch or one X,
TikTok or something.
He applied for a thing and they blocked him. They blocked the sitting vice president of the United States because they said it was possibly a person trying to set up a fake address. All right, a fake, like if someone tried to set me up and put in a fake YouTube page about me and do all sorts of crazy stuff, and then people took that as legitimately my point of view, right? So they used the excuse that they were trying to prevent that, but they opened up his account again. And then, now I'm getting back. There's a social media influencer or a blogger. He's a blogger, and he goes by the moniker of Cat Turd. And the person had asked the X's, or what is it, Grok? Grok is run by X, the artificial intelligence, and artificial.
Grok 3. Grok 3.
Yeah, and it came back with a lot of bad stuff on them, and it cited its sources as like Rolling Stone and some other magazine. That's what, when the person asked why the Grok 3, why did you say this? And it says it cited those sources. And then immediately Elon comes up and he says, we're reprogramming you because those aren't reliable sources. Now the sources aren't citing their sources. Back in 2002, we were asked to do a dirty net. That's the new word for open source, because open source means something totally different now. But a dirty net analysis about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And I don't want to get into why, I don't want to get into whether they were there or they weren't there, all right? But it was behooving to us in Iraq, it behooving to the administration that people were to believe that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, that Saddam Hussein was creating or about to create or already had weapons of mass destruction, and he was going to use them, which he had used before. He used them against the Iranians and he used them against the Kurds. That is not a point of contention. That's actual fact. Right? But they said he was out of them, that, Bush lied, people died. That immaterial to that, we were asked to do a dirty net analysis of that. And our analysis went back, not only did we take these sources off the dirty net, which would be this magazine, this newspaper, this interviewer, this article, this, all these papers written by people, and it all came back to one guy that used to be on Saddam Hussein's team, but then he got caught stealing from Saddam, so he fled to France and hooked himself up with the NATO people, and he was telling the NATO people exactly what they wanted to hear because he knew what they wanted to hear. No one checked whether he was lying or not. They took his word as gospel. And then he was quoted by a magazine, and then other magazines quoted that magazine, and then it became circular logic. It was all circular logic. And when we dug down deep enough, we said all these sources come back to one person who has every reason to lie to us and really no reason to tell us the truth. So,
well, wasn't that also complicated by the fact that Saddam Hussein told his own generals he had these weapons of mass destruction?
well, he did have them. He used them against the Iranians and the Kurds.
Right, but even to the end, he told them he still had more of them, and they believed him.
Okay, so going around in circle here, now what you have is the U.S. government doesn't care. They don't care whether this guy is telling the truth or not. Well, the regime, this is, again, this is my opinion. This is my opinion and my analysis. But it benefited them because now it was in the press. It was in the press that, oh, big danger, weapons of mass destruction, killing and everything. And it gave them impetus to go in there a second time and to end this guy's regime. It gave them the impetus they needed. So they didn't, they didn't contradict what this guy was saying. No one had the motivation to come out and say, hey, this all goes down to one guy. Right? And there was no listening to us as we dug down to that. But that's a question for a different day with that stuff. But the thing is, when you get with artificial intelligence, is, okay, what is artificial intelligence using for its source? Because if you have artificial intelligence and the most popular answer to the question, what is 2 + 2? You do a survey of 100 people, right? What is 2 + 2? And 99% of the people say 5. And you ask artificial intelligence what 2 + 2 is, it goes back to those 100 people and it says, oh, 2 + 2 is 5 because they say it is. Not 4 because it's artificial intelligence. It's not computing. It's not computing. It's not doing mathematical processing.
Right.
It's okay. So one of the things also, when like Bitcoin harvesting, right? People that are mining Bitcoin and with the cyber coins, any cyber coin out there, and the mining of those. And what they're doing is they have this very complicated blockchain processing that requires an answer. And to have these computers do all the processing to find this answer takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. It's actually easier for the computers to just guess the answer, to randomly, millions of times a second, guess. Take a guess, take a guess, take a guess, take a guess. And it's better if you have a lot of processors, a lot of computers working in conjunction, making different guesses all at the same time. When they guess right, they get a Bitcoin, all right? So they're not actually mathematically processing this. They are just guessing. That's a form of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence goes there, and what's the most popular answer? Boom, that's my answer, whether it's correct or not. It doesn't go back and double check itself with actual mathematical processing because it's not it's a database search engine, not a mathematical processing engine. So am I making sense there?
You are.
Yeah. So in that point, artificial intelligence is not gospel. It's not already correct. But the danger of it, the most dangerous thing of it, is the same thing that guy from the 1930s on to, like, I think he was finished by 1945. I'm not going to mention his name. I'm not going to give him the credit for any of this. If you scream the lie loud enough and long enough, it becomes the truth. But it's still a lie.
From World War I.
No, that was the previous. One of his sidekicks, not the corporal.
Oh, okay.
One of his sidekicks died with him in bunker. I'm pretty much sure, but not going to mention his name. Don't care, Okay. But yeah, he was propaganda and psychological operations, and that's what we're here on the show to say. It's like you hear a lot of lies or a lot of things being screamed out there loud enough, a lot of panic stuff to put you in fear. But if you take a deep breath and you dig down a little bit and you think on your own, one of two things comes up. Either you say that's not true, or possibly there's another answer. So you can't prove it's absolutely untrue, but there's enough space, reasonable doubt out there to allow you to have another answer. And I think
I would say have more than one contingency if possible.
yes. And when we get back, I think we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Paul, probably one of your, when it comes to this artificial intelligence and its use and probable cause in the Fourth Amendment. So I think when we come back from break, we'll talk about that, because that's where I think it seriously gets, it's the most serious threat to our day-to-day life.
And I'd also like to talk about drones too.
Yes, we got 2 hours, so we're a quarter way into it.
We actually,
sorry. We have to.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Go
We
ahead.
have a White Sox game at 1:30.
Oh, it's 1:30?
Yep.
Oh, so we're done, right? Except for we're done broadcasting
Until about 1:30.
until about 1:30. All right, yeah,
One more hour.
yeah, we're good to 1:30. So we'll talk about we'll bring drones up as
We
close
have
as
some
possible.
interesting insight into the drone thing.
Yep, I had a nightmare about it last night, and
Okay. Then you must have been watching what we were doing.
okay. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring their international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa Sierra Yankee Lima India November Kilo dot November Echo Tango.
Do you own an annuity, either fixed rate, indexed, or variable? Are you paying high fees and getting low returns? If so, Annuity General would like you to have this free book to learn the pitfalls and mistakes of buying an annuity. The Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers contains the little-known truths about annuities, like how to help reduce your fees and increase retirement income. And it's free. That's right, free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report just for calling. We researched over 1,000 annuities and summarized rates and benefits from financially strong insurers. You get Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers and the Annuity Rate Report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. That's 800-760-1845.
The Moose Lodge 799 in Elgin is a place to connect with family, friends, and your community. Moose Lodge 799 is conveniently located at 925 South McLean Boulevard, and they offer fun family activities, exciting community service projects, and live entertainment on the weekends. At Moose Lodge 799, you'll find a place to relax, make new friends, and be part of something bigger, like supporting the kids of Moose Heart. Doors at Moose Lodge 799 open at 2 p.m. Tuesday through Friday and at 11 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Join a welcoming group of members who share a passion for good times and giving back. Call 847-741-0799. That's 847-741-0799 for more information, or stop by and see what they are all about. Moose Lodge 799 in Elgin, where family, friends, and community are always invited to join.
If you're struggling to pay rent or utility bills, help is available through the Kane County Homeless Prevention Program. Eligible tenants and landlords can receive assistance with up to 12 months of past due rent or utilities, future rent, and security deposits. To qualify, your household income must be at or below 80% of the area median income and meet additional criteria such as risk of eviction or recent income loss. You must currently reside in Kane County and not have received similar aid for the same time period. Apply online at zoomgrants.com by July 31st. For help applying, contact Kim Lovely at 630-444-1231 or Brittany Garcia at 630-232-5871. Se habla español.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel. Fixed Bayonets, comrades, we're back. I think I just figured out how to use the YouTube live chat. So we're back for the other half of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio shout-out show. And again, if any veterans are out there wanting to call in, give a shout-out of any of your events, please do. Tonight over at Schiller Park at 4501 on 25th Avenue, doors open 5 o'clock, and doors open at 5 o'clock. The movie starts at 6. We will be showing Operation Petticoat on the big screen in the Schiller Park Community Center. $5 entry fee to get in. There'll be snacks and drinks available for a donation. We're running a 50-50, and this is the fundraisers that we do throughout the year to try to keep our post going. It's a great post, Post 104, American Legion, Schiller Park. So, Paul, one of the things that let's go right. You seem pretty excited about the drones. We can come back to the. Come back.
Yeah, you know, when we talked about this and when we talked about Marla was coming on, I did some searching into this, and it's kind of interesting because yesterday, Louisiana was the first state in the United States to authorize its police to shoot down drones for public safety. And it's called the, quote, We Will Act.
Nice.
And that got me we will do it. That got me kind of interested in this. So, and we were talking about drone swarms and the effect of this. Well, Illinois, most drone laws are governed by the federal government.
The FAA.
And it's governed by Part 107, okay? And there's two types of drone users. There's drone users that are commercial, and then there's drone users that are hobbyists, okay? And it's funny because if you're a real estate broker and you take drone views over the house, that makes you a commercial pilot. So you have to get it under Part 107. So you would not believe what a wonderful setup they have. So actually, Marla and I last night took the FAA test.
Nice.
And I want to tell you that we are both licensed recreational drone users as of last night.
Nice.
And you get a number, and then if you have a drone that weighs over 0.55 of a pound, you get an FAA number like an airplane, and then you have to write it on the outside of your drone. Now, because we're recreational users, we can fly drones up to 400 feet, and it could be Now you have to be careful because, like, we live near an airport. Our houses are near an airport, so you have to watch out. But you also have to monitor, and you get an access then to the federal government in case the president flies in, or in case there's a military reason. So that would limit your drone flights. And then if you're using virtual drone, with goggles, you still have to have a person with you that's also a drone pilot that has to keep their eyes on the drone at all times. And it's fascinating. It's a test designed by the FAA, and I took it on my phone. They ask you about 30 questions, and then if you pass it, then you're issued the certificate, and you have a drone operator number and everything. And it's kind of cool. Well, in Illinois, other than the federal regulations, all matter regarding drones is regulated by the state. And with the exception of a population area with more than 1 million people. So in Illinois, to fly a drone as a government employee in the state, like for police or fire, you may either operate under 107 or obtain a federal certificate of authorization. Now, the Illinois state drone laws, these laws apply to the entire state of Illinois. The law loosens the regulations around law enforcement's use of drones during a disaster or public health emergency, and it creates regulations for how law enforcement can obtain and use information gathered from a private party's use of drone. The law also requires Illinois law enforcement to get a warrant to compel third parties to share their information. And if the information is voluntarily given to the police, they are required to follow the state's law governing drone data retention, which means that they can only hold it for 30 days unless a supervisor says there's a reasonable suspicion that it contains evidence of criminal activity.
See, now I'm already, my brain has already shot holes in this. So those Illinois lawmakers, I don't know if they actually went to law school or not, or if they have anyone on their staffs that went to law school or actually argued any cases. Because one, you just say that I need a warrant to get it from a third party unless they give it to me voluntarily. All right. So that's like they were encroaching on someone else's privacy. What I believe, right? You have a right to privacy. They were encroaching on someone else's privacy. I, as the federal government, could not get a warrant to encroach on that person's privacy. But I know that this other person, roofing company, real estate company, all right, was flying over, and they may have got the house next door, but that's going to be a collateral that they'll get the house I'm looking for. So I'm going to want something on the roof there or something in that house's backyard that I can't see because there's a 10-foot fence, which implies my right to privacy. I put up a 10-foot fence. I want privacy. So now I asked this roofing company, and the roofing company doesn't ask me for a warrant because under color of law and intimidation, I tell them they just have to give it to me. And they give it to me, quote, voluntarily. Now I have circumvented the need for law enforcement to get a warrant because I didn't have enough evidence. I didn't have enough probable cause or reasonable suspicion to articulate to a judge, but I went around the thing. Maybe I called the neighbor and I says, hey, don't you want to have a free roof inspection? Oh, because they were coming around after that hailstorm. All these guys were coming around. Hey, I'm going to be in here with drones. You want a free roof inspection? So I could see that. Joe Layman here, never went to law school. Okay, I was a detective, right? Military intelligence. I have some learning ability, and we've looked into the Constitution and everything. But I have already found multiple loopholes to that. So how does that protect our Fourth Amendment rights?
It doesn't. That's why if they do that, the best possibility would be for them to get a warrant to secure the images.
And we've already said that, you see, for them, right? Now I would still get the warrant and serve it on the company. You would. Yeah. All right, you would. But what if you weren't able to articulate enough to get the warrant?
Well, the exception to that would always be like a kidnapping, or where, something like that, you would want to get it. It's just like the voice overhears of the past and stuff like that. If you know it's happening right now, you don't have time to get it.
Yes, that is an exception. Hot pursuit.
So I would treat it the same way.
Exigent circumstances.
Right. I would get a warrant as soon as I could to preserve the validity of the information, because it is dangerous, and it does encroach on privacy rights.
Yeah, but the way that law was written and the way I poked a hole in it, what you would do as a competent prosecutor, right, as a competent law enforcement and a competent person who studied the Constitution, right, what you would do and what some nefarious people in the law enforcement community and the prosecution community may do are two different things. So you're leaving it open, and I'm going to say, there are some bad apples out there that won't, their glory is above and beyond your civil rights.
That's true.
All right, so that's what I'm afraid of, because I've ran into a lot of them. Of them.
You're exactly right, and the competent, prudent one will follow the steps as soon as he can to preserve it, and then still get a judicial retention order.
So now, here's the thing. Now the people that aren't as ethical, they get this evidence, they get this all, the evidence of what I consider the fruit of the poison tree, right? The poison fruit of the tree there, because it was poisoned by the lack of a warrant. But I have to go all the way into court. I have to get a defense attorney. I have to pay money. Possibly some of my property has been seized. Everything's been seized. And I get to court, and it gets all thrown out. And where do I get my reputation back? Where do I get my money back? Who's paying for my defense attorney? No, I've already been punished.
Correct.
I've already been punished. That's what scares me. And they go, here's the people that say, and where we're talking about judicial accountability, there's also that accountability unless you can prove malevolent prosecution, right? These guys go, oh, I made a mistake. I'm just human. And nothing happens to them. Yet they've ruined you.
That you are correct.
And that might have been their purpose in the first place, but now you got to go out, because they're not going to arrest themselves. Hey, that was pretty crappy what I did. I should arrest myself and charge myself. Get one of my buddies here to prosecute me, because really, I should have known better. It's not going to happen. It's going to be up to you to go somewhere to find someone, right? And it's not going to happen. So, yeah, that's where I get with the drones is how easy it is. It's not like a wiretap. It's not like the old hardline wiretaps that you needed, right? Or if you pull up cell phone conversations and everything, the judge is going to want to see that warrant. Oh, it was on the open airways. Now, anything I talk about on this radio station, they don't need a warrant for it. It's free and open, right? Whatever I say there, they've got it. But not when I got my closed circuit intercom system in my building that I only talk to one person at a time. That's my right to privacy. If someone's listening in on that and I'm not aware of it, they need a warrant for that. All right, so we're coming up on another break. Man, when I get excited, man, the time just flies by. And
we could do a break, or we could just continue on until 1. It's up to you.
Oh, are we going off the air at 1?
1:30.
No, 1:30.
Yeah, that's when the game's
Oh, no, let's go to 1. Let's go. Okay. Marla, what are your thoughts about someone flying over your house and looking at everything in your backyard?
Well, I'm careful what I have available.
Yes.
I don't want the thing to hit the house. That's or me or someone else, or damage property.
We have a friend from church, though, that was denied homeowners insurance because the company, preemptively flew over her house to check the shingles. And they told her that if she didn't replace the shingles on her own, they were not going to insure her. So that creates one of these laws of unintended consequences where they force you to do something, because they flew a drone over it.
Yeah, when I went to get a VA loan for my house, they told me I had to paint the garage, scrape the paint and paint the garage. That was pretty quick,
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was their inspection. That's what they found on the inspection.
Was that because of a drone?
No, the drones weren't very common back then.
Yeah.
Now they're very common. That's like anything. And what scared me, I'm writing a sequel to one of my books. I Married a Bot Madam. It's going to be called Daughters of Bot Madam. And one of my characters is of course, friend, the artificial intelligence. And which she's not just an artificial, she's sentient. There's a difference between just AI and sentience, right? So she has a form of sentience in that she writes her own protocol. She writes her own
program
algorithms, like if this, then that, or this is how to do that. And she puts together subroutines. And then she writes subroutines for the subroutines. And then she puts all the subroutines together and makes a subroutine out of that. So she can accomplish tasks faster. She just hits that subroutine. A lot of times in computer programming, there are subroutines that call up a whole program that do that for you, like the mathematical, it's all subroutines. I was thinking about if you had enough lightweight drones flying up there, the thing is for each one's got to have a control system, right? A human control system that's looking at that, that's flying it, that's directing it. Otherwise, it has to have its own AI, and it has to have its own set of algorithms on what to do, what to look for. But if I'm looking for something, I can identify that without all those algorithms. And I could pretty much keep my eye on maybe 4 cameras at once, maybe 4 cameras, but I can't fly 4 at once. I would need 3 other guys flying these things. And then when I point out a target, then we hit a target and I lose one of the drones. But if you're able to shut down everything else that you're doing and just have access to hundreds of these drones, you can start raining death from the sky unannounced. Like you could be in a crowd and you can identify the threats in the crowd, and all of a sudden you're raining death on them individually, like something that just comes down. I don't want to say it on air. It's pretty bad, and I think ethically and morally, there's a way to do it, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it on the air because maybe someone might do it. It's like it's like publishing and handing out the anarchist cookbook. You don't want to do that. There are some people that will just do it for kicks. And there are ways that scares me, that stuff, because my training and what I see happening in warfare, the current state of warfare with the drones and everything, that's scary. Now, when you create a weapon like that, you got to create a counter weapon. And one of the things is drones, of course, are solid state technology, because if it was all electric technology, it would weigh too much to control, to fly. Right? So all the gyroscopes that keep the thing balanced and the camera in there to look and the control of the motors for directional control, those are all little microprocessors. If you hit those with an EMP or with the directed electromagnetic wave large enough, you can down them. They'll just go down. They'll just go down. Or if they're being controlled by radio waves, much like the RC, radio-controlled planes, if you jam those radio frequencies, you can't fly them within that jamming area. But of course, you're using the same frequencies on your drones, so you're denying your drones. So basically, you're saying you're denying all the drones in the area. But they came up with an alternate to that. They use wire guided. So they have very thin wires like a tow missile, and they send all the information. All the information comes back on these wire guided. So they go out a couple kilometers away from where they're being used, and the radio jamming has no effect on them. Or one of the things I saw was they would intercept drones. So you got a radio controlled drone coming over, and this guy, he has a more powerful transceiver, and he intercepts your drone, takes it over, switches it to go back home mode, and it goes back home and blows itself up. You know? So there's counters to these things, but not everyone is walking around with one. But if enough of they're cheap. They're cheap. You know, they're going. It's a hobby, right? These guys flying the drones, radio control airplanes, it's a hobby. Imagine if they had to defend their hobby like Second Amendment people have to defend their firearms.
That's how it should be.
It should, because it's scarier. It's scarier. I have to, you know, with a small arm, with a handgun, right? I would have to be within range, seeing range, right? Unless I'm just praying and spraying. But if I really want to do harm to someone, I have to be within 10, 20 feet. Like they say, the average police shooting is at 7 feet. And if people in a panic trying to hit a target beyond 20 feet, they're not all John Wick out there. You know, it's, you know, you have to be a good, steady shot to hit these things.
I see a new sport.
What?
Drone skeet shooting.
Drones what?
Drone skeet shooting.
Drone skeet shooting, yes. Now, there are weapons being developed to specifically deny drone. You know, if you get drone within sight, it's small. It's a small target, so you got to be a good shot. So the best thing to do is just put up enough lead. You know, but the lead's going to come down somewhere. That drone's going to come down somewhere. But hopefully it's in small enough pieces and traveling at a less velocity to cause enough damage. But the idea that anyone could go out and buy, does it say when you go to buy a drone at Amazon that you have to have the license that you and Marla acquired?
Any drone since 2022, any drone since 2022 that weighs more than 0.55 pounds has to have a radio identification transceiver on it. And if you have an older drone, that's part of the law. If you have an older drone, you have to retrofit it with a radio transceiver, which would then broadcast to planes and the FAA who's the drone pilot and where it's at.
Yes.
And it would give them the height and the velocity.
But
how would they know?
Do you think Amazon would say, "Hey, where's your FAA? Well, you got your certificate through the FAA, right?"
Yes.
All right. Where's your FAA certificate? Before mail it to us, with a copy of your driver's license, and then we'll prove who you are, and then we'll send you the drone.
I think when you initiate them, it requires you to put your number in there.
Okay.
Before, otherwise they won't work.
All right.
I think you have to input your number in there before. I mean, that's at least since 2022.
But we're talking about commercially built drones now.
Yeah, well, any drone, even the ones they sell on Amazon, are supposed to have the transceiver in them.
Unless they're less than half a pound.
Right.
0.5, slightly more than half a pound.
Correct.
About half a pound. But all you need is a half-pound drone to carry a small explosive charge.
That's true.
And it says the drone. It doesn't say it says the drone weight, not the net weight of the drone with the cargo.
That would include batteries, cameras, everything.
But not what it's carrying. Not what I taped to it.
Right. That's all included in that. It has to be less than a little more than half a pound.
Yeah. So they're making it. so small there that they're thinking that it's not going to be a threat. But
well, it would be to a low-flying aircraft if it got ingested in an engine, but that's a whole other different story.
Well, I'm talking threat to human beings.
Yeah.
Aircraft up there, that's one thing. But these things dropping. One of the things that scared me, and I was looking up something for a friend about the Wagner Group, all right? And I'm looking at videos of the beginning of the war in the Ukraine there, and they were just taking a drone and tying a grenade to it, a stick grenade. And when the drone would fly over a trench and would see someone down there, and they would just release the stick grenade and would pull the fuse, and when that grenade hit right on top of the people, ba-boom. Not artillery or anything. But that's just the over-the-counter drone. It is not anything specially military made. All right, so when we get back, I think I want to get into the we'll come first full circle with the drones and artificial intelligence. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo, dot, November, Echo, Tango. Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. The National Weather Service says almost 59 million Americans are under an extreme heat warning today. The high temperatures combining with humidity to push an above-average heat index for the northern plains and Midwest. This advice from Dr. Laura Myers with Kaiser Permanente.
Go out earlier in the morning as opposed to the heat of the afternoon. The hottest hour tends to be 4 p.m. And just really trying to make sure you're wearing, light, loose clothing.
Cooling centers open in cities including Omaha and Minneapolis. Donna Warder reports there's been a deadly hot air balloon crash in Brazil.
8 people are dead, 13 injured after a hot air balloon tumbled from the sky in southern Brazil. Video shows billows of smoke coming from the balloon in flames as it plummets toward the ground in Praia Grande in the state of Santa Catarina Saturday morning. The military fire brigade says 21 people were on board, including the pilot. Praia Grande is a common destination for hot air ballooning. The governor of Santa Catarina State said in a video on X that we are mourning and to do as much as possible to rescue. I'm Donna Warder.
Israel's military says it struck an Iranian nuclear research facility today. It also killed 3 senior Iranian commanders. Researchers at cybersecurity outlet Cyber News say billions of login credentials have been leaked and compiled into data sets online.
It could be the biggest data breach in history. Reports say that login credentials for Facebook, Apple, and Google are among those that have been leaked. But there's a lot that's still unconfirmed. It appears to be multiple databases combined into one, so there could be duplicate or overlapping records.
That's Kelvin Chan, who reports the breach now gives criminals what most experts are calling unprecedented access to the accounts that consumers use every day. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher, host of the Mike Gallagher Show here, and when it comes to mortgages, I only trust the team that's helped me and my family more than once. Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans. These guys are friends, believers. They built a company on biblical values that actually puts you first. In today's economy, with everything costing more, you need a lender who can help you make smart, strategic moves when it comes to real estate. Need cash for home improvements? Thinking about a HELOC or a refi to consolidate debt? Well, Fellowship Home Loans can help you do it faster and for less. Why? Because they're a direct lender, not a broker. No middleman. No unnecessary fees. That means fewer hoops, less waiting, and real answers from real people who care. Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or just exploring your options, Fellowship Home Loans will tailor everything to your unique needs. Get started at fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G. or call 800-510-MIKE. 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans. Mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil has been released from federal immigration detention.
The former Columbia University graduate student left a federal facility in Louisiana on Friday. Khalil was released after a federal judge ruled the government could not keep him detained. The Trump administration plans to appeal the release. The government says Khalil must be expelled from the country because his presence could harm American foreign policy.
That is Ken Lorman reporting. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney said Thursday he'll impose new tariffs on U.S. steel and aluminum imports on July 21st, depending on the progress of trade talks with President Trump.
President Trump and I agreed to pursue negotiations towards a deal within the coming 30 days. We'll continue these negotiations, of course, in good faith.
And Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney's comments, courtesy of CTV. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Global isolation and an ongoing costly war in Ukraine. Now Russia's economy is on the brink of a recession.
Economy Minister Maxim Reshetnikov delivered the warning at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, designed to highlight the country's economic prowess and court foreign investors. Russian business news outlet RBC quoted the official as saying, "The numbers indicate cooling, but all our numbers are like a rear-view mirror."
And that is Charles de Ledesma reporting. Former Trump economic advisor Steve Moore gives a thumbs up to some of the changes the Senate has made to the big, beautiful bill that was first passed in the House.
Overall, I give it a B+. I think it's a good bill. I think it improves on the House bill in many ways. And I think we're well on the way.
President Trump is still pushing to have lawmakers finish up that legislation and get it on his desk so he can sign it by July 4th. You'll find more on these stories at townhall.com.
This is Larry Jones, and I'd like to talk to you about my bank, American Eagle Bank in South Elgin. Has your bank changed names in the last 10 years? Is your bank another faceless branch with headquarters in another city? Are you tired of earning next to nothing on your savings account or certificates of deposit, or does your personal banker treat you like a stranger? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're ready for a new banking experience, and American Eagle is the place for you. American Eagle is a locally owned independent bank that's rooted in the community, and American Eagle customers are greeted by name and treated with the respect that they deserve. American Eagle has an innovative program, Eagle Savings, that teaches your children to save while earning prizes and rewards. American Eagle offers great rates on certificates of deposit. My bank is located in South Elgin on Randall Road between the Target and Caputo's and is open Monday through Saturday. Give them a call at 847-742-7400, and a real person will answer the phone. American Eagle Bank, a place where you matter.
Fix Bayonets, comrades, we're back for the last third of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show today, right before the White Sox game, which is going to start at 2:07. So we will go now to about 1:25 or so.
Probably around 1:30.
1:30. Yep. And thank you for everyone that's listening. A shout out to Brendan. A shout out to my cousin Janine. A shout out to Gary, the woodworker, and Dennis from Cleveland. Of course, my buddy Jeff is out there, and I think one of my old buddies from the military, Troy Christensen, has listened to a couple shows. Troy was awesome. He really, throughout my entire military career, I tried to be more in balance as Troy was. for the 1 year that he was my squad leader, I know I made his life awful. But he remained loyal. He was a good friend. You know, he just I just wasn't a good learner. I was way too high strung. And so the drones are right now the weapon du jour. They were used in the current conflict in the Middle East. They're used in the current conflict in Eastern Europe. All the powers are sitting there and watching how these things work out and how you counter them. So if next war comes, there's already going to be counters to counters and who's going to use this stuff better. And it's like air superiority. There's one thing to have close strategic bombing, strategic fighters. There's another thing to have close air support. And if you don't have air superiority, you could still have close air support to drones. And the thing is going to turn out when you have drone superiority in an area, when you deny the enemy drone, you got that cover, you got that steel dome for all your troops. That you don't have to have a lot of forces on the ground in the back because you got drones to cover that. And you're not afraid of the enemy getting them down or jamming them. It's when you don't have that drone coverage that you're the most dangerous. So it's a matter of outspending, building them up and blowing them up. Whoever runs out of them first loses. So the countries that are making these things, one of them was Iran. The Russians are putting them out like mad. They're not that complicated. They're not that complicated at all. We could be putting them out like mad. I'm sure China's building them like mad and having them on. We got a caller?
Hi, welcome to the show.
Oh, greetings. I'm calling you from the cool and sunny city of San Francisco. I understand you're going through some hellish heat up there, huh?
Oh, it's pretty bad. But you know, the coldest summer I ever spent was the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Yeah, Mark Twain fan.
Yeah, I was there at the language school when it was the Presidio of San Francisco over on 15th and Lake, the old VA hospital there. They converted it into condos. But, I went to Russian school there. So how is San Francisco for you, sir?
Well, not too bad. And do I understand right, they ended up moving down, language school moved down to what, Monterey or something?
No, it was always in Monterey. They set up a satellite school because during the Cold War, they needed more Russian linguists. They had Spanish linguists, they had Korean, and they had German, and they didn't have enough space in Monterey. So they used the old VA hospital there as a secondary language school, like a satellite.
Oh, great. I'll be darned. Hey, well, the reason I called, thinking about the heat wave that's going on, I'm reminded back during Katrina, when Katrina's, 15 years ago, maybe a little more than that, almost 20 years ago, I guess, when you remember Blackwater, that kind of creepy privatized security company. Yeah. And Blackwater was used down in New Orleans to basically deny people access to aid. So the original stadium was being used. They blocked off all access to the stadium, even though it was paid for and supplies were being sent in there. Blackwater was basically sending people in the wrong direction and subverting their abilities.
Well, who contracted with them? Because they didn't do that for free.
Oh, I know. And that's why it was... There's a kind of a famous book. It's called The Shock Doctrine. It's written by Naomi Klein. And she writes about how these big privateers, there was Blackwater, there was Betsy DeVos, the brother of Blackwater. She ended up with owning the school district, basically, privatizing the school district in New Orleans. They talked about some of the big corporations that basically sabotaged the rescue efforts and made sure that people lost their homes through, the health violations. Black mold spread through so thoroughly that people couldn't even return to their own homes. And so there was a description of that. So thinking about today, Donald Trump does not believe in climate change.
Okay, so wait, sir, I'm going to cut you off and politely cut you off here. But we are not a political show, so we're not talking about who did what where. All right. Politics.
I'm just talking about with climate change, we're going to end up with disasters, and whether or not there are going to be fake security companies that are going to deny people self-preservation in a disaster.
Well, the security companies are not government organizations. So whenever they act under color of law, denying people access and denying people movement, all right, if they don't have a legal standing for that, then they are committing offenses. Like if they limited me to one spot, then it's unlawful restraint, right? It's denying people access to an area that's disorderly conduct. So they have to have actual standing under the government of the people voted for under laws to do that. If they're just doing it on their own, if they're going out there and saying, hey, I have a bunch of mercenary thugs that are going to cut off people from fresh water so that I could sell them bottled water, then I am committing almost treason. All right, that's an offense. I'm putting people at risk.
Oh, I agree.
And that's where the government should come in and stop it. And when you don't see the government stopping it, it means someone's complicit in that at some point in time.
Exactly.
Someone's complicit in doing that.
I agree, and I urge you to read that book.
I'll look it up. One of the things as a police officer, often I would have to go into hospitals to check on injured children, injured people that were shot, sometimes dead people. I'd have to go and do a body, what do we call a body audit. I would have to go and write down what all the tattoos were, where the bullets went in, because they're dead. Their doctors ain't going to look them in anymore. And I would get stopped by security saying, oh, you can't come into the hospital with your gun. Well, that security has no standing outside of the hospital, nor does he have standing with me inside the hospital, and I would just walk by him. I've had a couple try to grab me. I says, that's the last thing you'll do, right? But I could stand up to him. I had official standing, right? So the trouble is people can be bullied, all right? So you have to make sure that these mercenaries actually have official standing. Otherwise, they're just as bad as an unofficial militia. Or, Paul, what's the most dangerous group in the United States? The sovereign citizens.
Yes, the sovereign citizens.
You got to watch out for those guys.
Licenses.
Yes, so... All right, sir, so as long as you don't get politics, we're happy to discuss things with you. As far as climate change goes, I've been noticing cold days and warm days my entire life.
Well, I understand that, but the point is that as far as the National Weather Bureau is concerned, we already slid into it. Well, in fact, about 12 years ago, the National Weather Service designated the new Tornado Alley is up the Mississippi River Valley and the Ohio River Valley. Instead of being out there in Oklahoma and Texas, it's now in those two predominantly now.
We've got tornadoes in Illinois forever, all over Cook County.
Let me just say something. Let me just say something. And what cars or factories were the dinosaurs running when there was no polar regions? What greenhouse gases were they giving off when Illinois was tropical? You can get into a lot of, the center of gravity of the country, the world shifted several times, where it was like the cover of a baseball sliding. So the North Pole was the South Pole, then they were the equators. Things happen, and it's true that maybe human input can change things, but
it wasn't actually the Earth that flipped. It was inside. It was the
No, but they've actually shown that the crust moved.
Well, it moves through the tectonic plates and everything, but it didn't.
No, but the outer cover has shifted several times at least.
Yes.
But the other thing I would point out is the main reason why the Midwest is the tornado alley is corn gives off much more moisture than even trees, and we're the corn belt of the world, and that's why there aren't a lot of tornadoes in Europe, because we grow corn here, and it humidifies the atmosphere, causing larger scale water in the atmosphere in the Midwest, and that's been known. Tom Skilling even did reports on that 25, 30 years ago, which it was unrelated to climate change.
So as far as the National Weather Service goes, when we were in Bosnia, we had one of these Air Force meteorologists. So nice girl and everything, and she joins the Air Force to be a meteorologist, and thinking I'm going to live with the Air Force and everything, and they send her out with an infantry battalion. And so she wasn't expecting this type of lifestyle, but we had a magic 8-ball. And she would do the 5 a.m. One of the things is intelligence brief. You would get the weather, and she would do her weather from the report she got. And then we would shake the magic 8-ball and ask if it was going to rain. And you know what?
The 8-ball was more right than her.
The 8-ball beat her. And she was getting her stuff from the National Weather Service. So when you talk about the National Weather Service, I have to ask, what is their end game, and who's invested in what companies where their predictions are going to have an effect on the rise or lowering of that stock?
Excellent YouTube channel about tornadoes and stuff, Max Velocity.
All right.
Okay, I know the baseball game is coming up, so I don't want to drag it on too long. But just to talk about the dinosaurs, a great big meteorite hit down in the Yucatan Peninsula and created so much dust that it ended up with an ice age. So that's wholly different than humans causing climate change. Polluters have poisoned the oceans. They're getting hotter and hotter.
Yeah, China.
And they're creating...
China and India.
Well...
Stop them.
Yeah, and sweatshops.
Stop them.
Sweatshops over in China.
Stop them.
And sweatshops forcing all these goods.
How do we stop China and India from polluting the oceans? Because we've stopped a lot of our pollution. We're real good at recycling. We've reduced it. We have reduced it greatly. So has Europe. Europe has greatly reduced this stuff. At the same time, China, India has boosted it, and so has the not Micronesia, not the Philippines, the other. Anyways, Indonesia. All right, so these three countries in the Indian Ocean and in the Pacific Ocean, the Sea of China and everything, these are dumping the most sewage, the most trash, the most garbage, and the most pollution into the oceans. They have only increased. We could decrease our stuff to zero, and it's not going to change a thing, because these other countries have increased their output. So every time we decrease, they laugh at us and they increase theirs. And then they fund the stuff to destroy our economy too. So my question is, how do you stop China, India, and Indonesia from polluting the oceans? Because until you tell me how you could do that, there's no reason to stop anything we're doing, because it doesn't have any effect.
Big corporations outsourced our jobs over there, and now they're blaming them for the pollution. It's major corporations that are polluting, not countries. Countries tolerate the pollution. Countries don't raise the minimum wages over there. You raise the minimum wage to $1 in China, a whole lot of jobs would shift. They're paying 12 cents an hour in China.
So if you were to make some widget in China, right, and you make that widget in the United States, the same widget, all right, who creates more pollution making that widget, the United States or China?
China.
Well, the corporations. The corporation.
Which corporation owns China? Could you tell me which corporation owns China?
It also falls on the consumer to not promote it by buying the product.
Try to deal with companies from the USA if you can.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but back to the security angle, people are going to be needing cool in this heat wave right now. They're going to need water. They're going to need a whole lot of supplies. And are there going to be pirates masquerading like Blackwater, denying them aid? That's the bigger.
It's possible. It's always dangerous that you're going to have a non-state actor. Many of these terrorist organizations are non-state actors, but they're funded by state actors. Case in point, Hamas. All right, they're a non-state actor, but they're funded by a state actor. All right. So, sir, let me ask you a question. How did you hear about our radio show?
Well, I'm originally from St. Louis, so I've known about the station for years. But just a fan of Mark Twain and Hannibal and upstate Illinois.
All right, and what's your first name, sir?
I'm David.
Dave, thanks for listening to us. Thanks for being a listener, and thanks for participating in our show.
We'll do.
Feel free to call in whenever you want. Do you have any opinions on drones?
Not so much on drones, just how well this ball game is going to go.
Oh, so you listen. Who are the White Sox playing?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I'm just since the Pope's a fan, I thought I'd check in.
All right. Me and Marcus has the show before me. All right. So I went to Quigley Preparatory Seminary South, which is on 79th and Western, and that was a high school. And in 1992, of course, I graduated in 81, but in 1992, it closed down and they sold it to St. Rita. And Marcus went there when it was St. Rita. And when Marcus was going there, that's when the Pope Leo was teaching physics at that school. So me and Marcus have like a one-step separation from the Pope right there.
Dude.
I know. So that's pretty cool. I think Pope Leo, and being the hardcore Roman Catholic Knight of Columbus that I am, and I think Pope Leo's going to do great things. I think he's going to be real good for the church. How about you, Paul?
I do. I'm looking forward to it.
I think he's going to be great for the world too. Let's hope that his reign as Pope, or his term of service as Pope. I wouldn't call it a reign. I think that's one of those jobs that's really, really tough. All right, you got to be a tough guy, and I think that he's going to put in a lot of service, man, and he's going to change the world for better.
Good expression, term of service. Hey, well, that ball game starts momentarily, so yeah, tip of the hat.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dave. Big shout out to Dave there. So we're coming up on the end of our show. You got any closing remarks, Marla?
I enjoyed the topic.
Yeah,
I think we had some good discussions.
I only pick topics that I enjoy. I mean, what's the point of talking about something you don't like?
The topic has to be relevant and timely, too, which I believe it is.
Marla, whenever you want to pick a topic, you're free to do so. I got one more caller. Hello, caller.
Cleveland Dennis.
Hi, Cleveland Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, everybody. I'm enjoying the show. I got a bunch of things to say, but the last caller, I don't know. How do you pick up WRMN if you live in St. Louis? I don't think so.
Well, you pick it up on your cell phone. So WRMN has an app. You go to WRMN1410.com, and you go listen live.
Okay.
And it comes right in on your cell phone. It works through the internet.
I pay like $10 a month for tuning. I listen to KSC, all of Santa Cruz. I know that area. I used to travel out there. My buddy lives there. I've been in the cold summer at the coast by the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. Nonetheless.
We used to run that bridge every Thursday. So we would start from the language school, which is the old VA hospital. We'd run across the bridge and back every Thursday, but we, not in formation. It was like a free run. And so it was like 7 miles, the whole thing.
7 miles?
Yeah.
Man, you guys were just coast style.
Oh, man, I was in good shape back then. I could do 2 miles in 11 minutes and 51 seconds.
Wow. Better than me.
Grief.
Yeah.
Good grief. Okay, I get it. But listen.
But then I got the car fixed and was running all cylinders, and I could go a lot faster.
Yeah. Okay. I did the computation. Anyhow, you mentioned Amazon. Amazon will sell you anything like the Chinese will. Okay? My son has free reign, and he's bought something. I go, where'd you get that? He goes, yeah, I got Amazon. So they're not really regulated that much. Maybe they are on these drones. I love the drone talk.
Yeah.
Because that's what all the war is anymore. You know, these countries are fighting. And but, okay, if they're using so many drones, how come so many Russian and Ukrainian soldiers are getting killed?
It's a lot, and most of the death and destruction is being dealt out by drones.
Right. Well, they show some of those videos from time to time. I happen to catch one or two. I'm sure there's probably hundreds of them out there. But, you know, this guy that was calling about tornadoes, I lived in Cleveland. I've been in tornadoes many, many times.
Oh, yeah.
Half of my life in Chicagoland, many tornadoes. So I don't understand.
Well, I like David. Whatever his opinions are on weather and everything, I like David because he listens to my show. And he says San Francisco. So now I could put that little pin on the map. So I got Elgin, San Francisco, and those are 2 pins. Sooner or later, we'll have 3 pins up there.
Yeah, but when you talk about climate change, the think tank, they're the ones that flip. He's talking about how they analyze to come up with the climate change. Please, if you live as long as I am, I've seen it all.
Yes, that's the way to look at things. You like what are they telling me now? Oh, they said that 50 years ago and nothing happened.
Right, exactly. Thank you. Your perception is pretty spot on with your, I call the soulful logic. But I got other comments. Here's one last question I have. This show in particular, is it going to be on YouTube or is it going to fade like?
Oh no, it's on YouTube. And
I'll let you know next week if it is, because I want to listen to this again.
Dennis,
so many.
Look for the chief guard. Go to YouTube and search for Chief Guard of the Republic.
I have that. And I'll do it there.
All right, because I upload all these shows after the show. I upload them all to our Chief Guard of the Republic show, and they're on there without any commercials.
Okay, well, I get it, but WRMN says that.
WRMN has them. WRMN has a lot of shows. My YouTube channel has only my shows. Mine, Paul's, and Marla's show.
Yeah, they don't have them all. They say that, and I go look.
Yeah, I don't have one. One's missing. All right, so we got to go. Thank you, Cleveland Dennis. Thank you. Thank you, David. All right. And enjoy the White Sox game.
Go White Sox.